Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, back in the chair after a day off. Many thanks to Matt Murphy for filling in yesterday so ably. He's a gem to do that for me. And look, I apologize for my absence, but it's just one thing that I really wanted to do. It's on my bucket list to go see another one of these total eclipses of the sun. And so I know that you'll forgive me for that one brief, thing.
Oh,
right?
I guess.
Come on. I mean, but it was, I got to tell you, I'll talk about it a little bit later, a great experience. Unlike the folks here in Nashville who really didn't get much of a show, I mean, one of the things that I found out about the total eclipse of the sun, I was reminded as I went through it, as soon as like 1 or 2% of the sun starts coming back out, it's amazing how bright it gets. So if you only got to like 95%, 5% of the sun was enough to make it still look pretty bright outside. It was amazing.
Yeah, it didn't change much here, honestly, because it was already overcast, and then with
that's right.
Still having that 5%. Yeah.
I know it was disappointing, but boy, it was dramatic for those who were in totality. And I was about a half a mile off of the center line. I think if I was going to be on the center line at the particular area where I was, I'd have to be in the middle of the river. And I didn't
have a boat handy.
I didn't happen to bring my boat. Actually, I don't have a boat, but if I had one, I might have brought it, but I don't think I would have done it. But anyway, long story short, great experience, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. We've got a lot on hand today. There was a protest just a few moments ago inside the gallery of the Tennessee State Senate. And as they got louder and rowdy, these group of moms had to be escorted from the gallery by state troopers. Chanting, "Throw them out," as they were contemplating a measure that is being considered by the state legislature that would provide the opportunity for teachers who underwent special training and had a concealed carry permit and jumped through a bunch of hoops, could be allowed to conceal carry on school property. And, the idea here is that, you want to have a situation where if there is an unfortunate incident like we saw at the Covenant School more than a year ago, we now know in studying that incident that most of the damage that was done and the people who were killed in the first 3 minutes. And based on my analysis of police tapes, I think it took about 8 minutes from the time the call first went out to the time police first arrived on the scene. It may be a little better than that, but it still took a few minutes. It took more than 3 minutes for sure. And so the idea here is if you have maybe somebody like a coach or an assistant principal or somebody who has been through some military training, they could go through a course. They could get a lot of training. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, but at the end of the day, you would be allowed to conceal carry on campus. A lot of Democrats, of course, against this idea, but I think it had a lot of Republican support, as best I can tell. Still watching to see exactly what the vote was, but I think it was a very strong vote in favor of that. And so here's the question, and I asked this of you before. I'd like to know again, 615-737-9986. How do you feel about the idea of somebody who goes through some special training, has some background, gets signed off on by a bunch of different authorities, and then is allowed to conceal carry in the classroom? I mean, the Democrats were concerned that, the teachers could be overcome by a student. Student could grab the gun. Okay. I don't know exactly, how that would go, but I have a feeling that if you had a lockbox or something like that, you could keep the gun handy in the classroom, but have it there if you need it. Because if listen, when seconds count, you need to understand that the police are still minutes away. I think, I look at everything in life, just about. I mean, I look at everything in life and I go through, what's the risk and what's the benefit? And as I look at it and I say, the risk is that somehow somebody who's not supposed to have that gun could get a hold of it. Okay, there is that risk. What's the benefit, though? The benefit is in those moments, before police can get on the scene, you have at least somebody out there with a chance. I've never wanted to ever in my life be in a situation where, it was all them and no me, that I didn't have any options. And so I'm wondering if this is not a good idea. I sort of like the idea. I think it has a lot of conservative support, but then there are those out there who say, I don't really want guns in my kid's classroom. You can make that argument, and I'd like to hear from you at 615-737-9986. To the phone lines we go. Let's go to Sean out on the road. Sean, what do you think about this? Are you okay with the idea of an instructor or a coach or a principal or an assistant principal or somebody of that nature going through the proper courses and being signed off on, being allowed to conceal carry a weapon on campus?
Absolutely. Let them carry. If we could have seen the writings from the shooter, we probably would have seen that she chose not to go to places where she would meet armed resistance.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, there was apparently an SRO that worked at the school, but that particular day, as I understand it, the SRO was on vacation, and they did not replace that person when the person was out, is my understanding. So, I mean, there was armed resistance, but, she went in, fully armed, and there was nobody on that particular day. And there are many schools, I forget how many there are, but there's about 500, I think, schools in the state of Tennessee where we don't have SROs. Tim in Kentucky, what do you think about this, Tim? Are you okay with this idea or not?
Behind it 100%.
All right, so you don't have any problems at all with the idea of someone in your kid's school having a weapon?
No, definitely not. They definitely need to be people that are there and prepared to take care of the situation if it ever arises.
Yeah, I mean, I think the law as it's written requires a psychological evaluation that you have to get signed off on by a police officer, a police official in your jurisdiction, like a chief of police or a sheriff, depending on where the school is located. I mean, there's a bunch of hoops you have to go to, including a requirement for annual training, which is not just a couple of hours in front of a computer. It's actual training. So, I mean, if you wanted to do this, you would have to really work hard to be able to do it. And there are many opportunities along the way for somebody saying, I just don't feel real good about this person having a gun. And they would have to sign off or not sign off. Karen, out on the road, what do you say? Karen, you're up with Brian on the drive.
Hey, Brian. I'm 100% behind having a gun on school property. We protect our children at home through our training and with the extra training laws that they're putting in. I think it's phenomenal.
Why do you think that some people are concerned about this? What do you imagine is their point?
I think they're afraid of guns.
Yeah. Maybe
not been exposed to them, don't understand that there are, especially with those extra laws that they want to put in place, psychological evaluations, letting the authorities know who's carrying. I just wonder, do we do that even for their teaching license? I hate to be that way, but just saying.
Give them a greater scrutiny over this than you would about whether or not they should be in the classroom actually instructing. I think you might have a decent point there, Karen. Thank you so much. James in Hendersonville, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, James?
Hey, Brian, how are you today?
I'm good.
Hey, I think it's 100% behind it. I had my carry permit before Tennessee became a constitutional carry state. And personally, being a father of 3 boys, I think every teacher should have the option to carry if they want to, and every school should have multiple resource officers on scene every day. I think with the world we live in, you just never know. Yeah. So it's always better to be prepared than not prepared.
Yeah, I think you're right. In fact, I talked when we were deciding about putting SROs in the classroom, and there actually were people against that idea as well. When we were doing that, there was a big discussion, and I said, man, I know of places in other parts of the country where the principal packs, the vice principal packs, The couple of the coaches are carrying, and then they put a sign out front saying that this building is protected by people who will shoot you if you try to cause harm to the students here. I mean, essentially, they just put up a big warning sign. Seems like to me that would be pretty effective to anybody who's thinking about doing something really stupid or dumb. You'd have to think twice when you see that sign, wouldn't you?
I would think so. I mean, you know the old saying, an armed society is a protected society. I think that it does deter.
All right, James, thank you. Thank you much. Let me go get some more calls in here for a few moments. Greg from Nashville. Greg, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Greg?
Hey, how you doing? I work armed security in a school, and I wouldn't have a problem with somebody who has the emotional and mental capabilities to carry a weapon, to have a weapon. The problem is, and that it's just my opinion, many times in the schools, you just don't find that many people that are that way. Now, there are people in the schools, not necessarily teachers, that, I wouldn't have a problem with someone being armed other than me in the school, as long as, they're capable and trained, and you generally know who those people are. And
well, I think it's a requirement that the chief of police or the top law enforcement officer in that area, whether it's a city or a county, would know, but would not really pass that on information, except maybe to the other officers who might respond. You'd want to know, if you're a responding officer, there's somebody there who is a teacher and is has a concealed carry permit and is carrying on campus. You'd want to know that as you were arriving. But I can't get past this thing that we keep hearing time and time and time again when we have these unfortunate. They're rare, but I mean that when they happen, they're extremely unfortunate. When you find out that the damage is generally done in such a short period of time, when everybody's sort of caught, not ready, and the police can't quite get there. We saw that at Covenant. It like I say, the first 3 minutes is when most of the and we are told reliably, is when most of the damage was done. When 6 people were killed within just a few minutes. If there had been one person who could have challenged this individual, might the outcome have been different? Well, we'll never know. But one way or the other, I think that this is probably, by the way, I'm getting word that the measure passed in the Senate. 26 voted yes and 5 voted no. So I guess that measure passed. I'll have to get an answer about where this is in the process, because I think the House and the Senate, if they both passed the same bill, then this goes to the governor's desk. I'll get a readout on that. Real quick, let's get Stephen from Indian Creek on. Stephen, what do you think about this?
So, Brian, love your show.
Okay.
Completely agree with the carry-on premises there at the schools. My concern would be the fact that a teacher and or other individual working at the school may be carrying and licensed to do so, whatnot, and they're not identifiable by the police officers. When they come in. So that would be a uniform insignia on a shirt. All of a sudden you got to put on. I don't know, but that just came to mind, bro.
Well, I think that's something that could be worked through. Put on a hat, a certain color hat. I don't know. One way or the other, I think you could probably work out that with the local law enforcement. To say, what if something happens? How do you know I'm okay? I'm not the shooter. Good question. Well, I think a lot of things still to work through, but we'll try to get a readout in the next few minutes of exactly where the bill is as it wends its way through the state legislature. Good conversation. I mean, what I'm hearing here is that parents and a large swath of people in Middle Tennessee don't have any problem with this issue, even though Democrats do. It's 21 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee. Busy Bee, when you need heat or cold AC, 775-7833. That's the number you call. They'll buzz right over to your house, and they'll get you up and running. And this time of year, I'm telling you, I've been doing it every day. Sometimes I have to turn on the heat a little while, and then I got to turn on the air conditioning a little later in the day as it gets warm. Up and down. This is the time of year where you really have to count on your HVA system, both the heating and cooling side of it, to work. And if you find that you got a problem with one or the other or both, you need to call that number, 615-775-7833. And the folks over at Busy Bee, man, they will take care of you like they take care of me. And I tell you, I've had great experiences. The way you make sure that you don't run into problems is to do preventative maintenance. And I do this. I'm a member of the Beehive Club. Starts for as little as $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
The Tennessee House right now voting on a bill that would allow teachers to carry firearms in schools, and sports gambling taking off in Tennessee. Those stories, 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. There's Mac Morey with all the stories in the newsroom. Good afternoon to you, Mac.
Good afternoon. How was the Eclipse?
That was great. It was great. I was going to tell you about it. But let me say hello to Chris Weber before I do that. Chris Weber in the control room with all the blinky buttons.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I missed you guys yesterday.
I missed you.
Yeah, what were you doing?
I was being insane is what I was being. I got up, look, I kept hearing about, well, there's going to be like 1 million people just trying to get across Kentucky to get to the zone, the pathway of totality.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up early. I got up about 7 o'clock. Bang! I kissed Cabana wife on the cheek, and then I took off and was headed down the road. And I got to my initial destination, which was Henderson, Kentucky. Fairly early without too much, traffic. I thought, well, this is going well, but I'm so close to the center where, here in Henderson, I would have gotten maybe 2 minutes if I traveled into the center of the pathway, which was about 50 miles down the road. Then I could actually, I could get 4 minutes of totality. So I went ahead and drove the extra 50 miles into Vincennes, Indiana.
You just couldn't stand it, could you?
Well,
you were just
if you're going to have the experience, why not have the Cadillac experience? And
I gotta agree. Yeah.
I got to Vincennes, and I thought I was a little late, but I wasn't because, well, they have a time zone difference there, and I ended up having an extra hour just to sit around. One way or the other, so I got me some Mexican food, and the Mexican food lady, I said, can I take my margarita with me? Yeah, so it's my day off. I had a margarita. Don't judge. At lunch, yes, I did. And so she said,
I can't believe she said yeah.
Well, she said, you don't know where you got this cup. I haven't identified. There's like several Mexican food restaurants. So
here's a cup.
Here's a cup. And didn't see. I saw nothing at all. So I took the remainder of it and drove over to a little park called Kimmel Park there in Vincennes. And there were I don't know, maybe 1,000 people out on the lawn, right side. There's a nice river. I don't even know what the name of the river is. But
it's very nice.
Yeah, very nice river and a viewpoint. I'm sitting on a grassy knoll up on top, and I set up my little lawn chair, which I've carried with me, and I immediately struck up a friendship with a guy from Portland, Oregon.
Whoa.
Who had flown all the way. I mean, come out. He apparently has, his kid was in school somewhere out, and they drove down. And then I met some people from California who were there. And then it was an interesting mix of people who just, wanted to have a good time. And then maybe there was a group of college kids. I don't know. They may have been high. I can't tell. They were acting maybe they're a little stoned. But
they were definitely high, I would say.
I would guess. I don't know. But it was great. And so, then what's interesting is I tried to tape because, I told Cabana wife, I'll tape the moment as it gets dark. I put on my, not say tape, video it on my camera. Okay.
Record
it. Yeah. So I hit the thing. But unfortunately, when you look at the video, as it got darker and darker, the camera compensated. And so it didn't even look like there was much of a thing going on. Yeah. But it was dramatic in person. I mean, it just gets dark. And you see light on the horizon both ways. Because it's the swath is only 115 miles wide.
Yeah.
So you're about what? That'd be about 57 miles, roughly 57 and a half miles
in either direction,
either direction from the edge. And so, you could see light. It never gets completely dark, but it gets dark and it gets quiet. But the crowd was into it. They were yelling, they were screaming, they were hollering. And then you had 4 minutes to just sort of watch this sun, which was completely blacked out, except you could see the ring around it.
Wow.
And there was what they call the diamond was on at the bottom, which is basically the sun shooting through a canyon in the moon and lets just a little bit of light out. And so it looks like a diamond ring.
That's cool.
That was very cool. And I never did see any solar flares. I understand later some people did. But later in the day, and as the thing moved across the country, some people got to see a solar flare. And then, I jumped up and said, I got to get out of here. And I tried to get to my car ahead of everybody else because, that was nice. Got to go by. Yeah. And jumped up and ran to the truck and threw my lawn chair in and took off. And I did fine for about 40 miles. And then I ran into all of the people I think that were in Louisville and all of the the big cities in Kentucky who had come. They had just gone to Paducah, or maybe Henderson, but they just went into the edge of it.
Yeah,
and it was wall to wall traffic, crawling along at 2 or 3 miles an hour for quite a while. So, But that broke through, and then I got lost in the country and encountered Amish people. I have no idea where I was.
I didn't even know we had them around here.
Well, yeah, there are Amish people in our area because I saw them. And then
sure it wasn't the margarita talking?
No. By that time, the margarita had long worn off.
Right.
And you said they were in a wagon or something?
They were in a wagon, in a little buggy.
Whoa.
They were going to town, man.
You were on back roads, man.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, I have no idea where Waze took me, but it was in the middle of nowhere. But
you were
good
moving,
time.
though. That's what's important.
I
right?
was moving at that point, and got home, actually left there at what? About 3:02, which had been 2:02 our time. Well, about 2:10. And I got home at 7, so that tells you a little bit.
Oof.
Yeah.
Long trip back.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, enough of that. I got to do the news now. Here's Mac Morey.
"32 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, Mac Morey with your top story. 63 degrees and cloudy. Chance of storms here later tonight in Nashville. Full traffic report, weather forecast, 5 minutes. Starting with possible legislation here in the volunteer state, the Tennessee Senate passed a bill that would arm teachers with concealed guns in schools. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik is outside the Tennessee House chambers as they're now beginning their vote on the bill.
Behind me here, this is a group of dozens of moms, parents, and people who do not want this bill to pass. This is a bill that could potentially arm teachers and staff members inside schools. Now, this group is actually just kicked out from the gallery upstairs in the Senate, and they were brought back down here, and they're watching what they can from this TV. Now, if passed, this bill would arm staff members in a school if they get the required training like background checks and psychological evaluations. Republicans say there is a lot of misinformation about this bill, and staff will only carry a concealed handgun if they want to go through the training. But Democrats say this would be a major liability.
And that group behind Sulik began chanting, "Vote him out." The bill passed in the Senate with 26-4, 5 votes against. And staying here in the state, billions of dollars being wagered on sports in Tennessee. The Tennessee Sports Wagering Council says $3.18 billion was laid down from July 1st of last year to this past February 29th. $58.5 million has been taken in taxes from it. News 2 reports 80% of that in a fiscal year goes to the Lottery for Education Act, 15% to the general fund to be dispersed to local governments, and remaining 5% to the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
Let me tell you about the folks over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You know, Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, good people who can help you get rid of your pain. Are you in pain? Well, listen, why are you just suffering? Why not try to do something about it? Because there's no pill or spinal cream that opens up the spinal disc and takes pressures off your nerve. You have 2 options here. You can do surgery, or you can pursue the non-surgical options, which is what they do over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I would take the non-surgical approach. In fact, I have. I've gone there. I've been through their process. Their non-surgical spinal decompression really helped me with my lower back issues, as they have helped so many people. And so they are doing everything they can for you to help you out, and they're even keeping the prices where they were in 2023. I mean, that's a good deal. So for $23, you go down there if you're a new patient and you get an exam. They will go over everything that they learn. They'll come up with a plan for you. If you have x-rays, they will look at them. If you have an MRI, they will look at them. But the plan will be put together and you could start down the pathway to feeling better very, very, very quick. So listen, if you are in pain, I suggest you call the Wellness Institute of Nashville. That's right, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. And I am Brian Wilson, and they get my absolute stamp of approval. That's, again, painisbad.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
It is 39 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on Tuesday, the 9th day of April. So glad that you're with us. Gloomy day. I mean, come on. What happened to all that nice spring weather we're having? 60, I have to look up at my little tiny thermometer. I got to get a bigger thermometer. It's 63 degrees here in bucolic Watertown. I'm just trying to get the final word here on what happened with that bill that's being considered. The Senate just passed a few moments ago, and apparently on the House side, the House version is currently, according to sources on the Hill, it's currently being held on the desk, but would anticipate the sponsor lifting it from the desk at some point before we adjourn. Calendars are pretty full right now, is what I'm told. So what would happen over in the House? They have already apparently passed a measure like this, and now the question is, can they get it across and get it to the governor's desk? But they're talking about how in the last days of the House and Senate, state legislature, they're saying that their calendar is pretty full. How do you then wedge that into the other things that they're considering right now? Of course, the other thing that they're considering, which is really important right now, is the governor's education plan. We still have a situation where the House and Senate measures are not in alignment, and how is that going to be resolved? Because we don't have much time left in this meeting of the state legislature, this session. So we'll be watching that. But I want to get back very quickly to a summary of that bill and what it would call for. This is a bill that would allow some people who work at a school to go through. I mean, you got to jump through a lot of hoops to do this, but you could carry a weapon, a concealed carry weapon, on campus if you did the following things. You have to be, first of all, employed by the school or a staff member at a school. A person assigned to a school in accordance with a memorandum of understanding between the chief of the appropriate law enforcement agency and the school district. In other words, the school district has to know that you are going through this process. In order to possess and carry a firearm on school grounds, the person must, number one, possess an enhanced handgun carry permit. 2, have the joint written authorization of the directors of schools in conjunction with the principal of the school to carry or possess a firearm on school property. And 3, be a law enforcement officer or have prior service as a law enforcement officer and comply with all requirements post-commission and have successfully completed 40 hours of basic training in school policing. There are some other things in there. You can't... Must not be prohibited from carrying a handgun on Tennessee federal law. Limits the kind of firearm, the kind that you'll be allowed to carry as a concealed weapons. And, you don't have to now. They apparently amended it so you do not have to have prior law enforcement experience, but you have to go through 40 hours of training. So that was what passed in the Senate. It now sits on the desk in the House. And if I'm reading the guidance I'm getting from our state legislature and officials there, there's some question about whether or not this can get through simply because, well, they're jammed. They got a lot of things to consider. So we'll watch that. In the meantime, let's go to the other swamp, the swamp up on Capitol Hill in Washington. I got some really, really troublesome news here. This hacks me off. In fact, I have a little soundbite. Where did I put that? Yeah, here it is. I want you to hear this because Chuck Schumer never fails to disappoint. An impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is scheduled to hit a dead end this week, as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer prepares to do away with a trial, upsetting Republicans who wanted to highlight the administration's handling of the border. House Republicans impeached Mayorkas in mid-February, and I think justifiably so, but the official transmission of the articles has been stuck in limbo while Congress worked out ways to fund the government. That will change when impeachment managers deliver the articles on Wednesday, with Senate President pro tempore Patty Murray. The President pro tempore is the longest-serving member in the current Senate body, and that'd be Patty Murray of Washington, swearing in senators as jurors a day later, and Schumer expected to dispense with them for good and short order. The Democrat leader had until today declined to say exactly how he plans to handle the articles of impeachment. His option, including holding a vote to table or dismiss the articles, or burying them by referring them to a special committee. That's right. Put it in a place where items go to a committee. My expectation is when we get this, we'll dispose of it pretty quickly, said Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, relaying the message he got from Schumer. Here's what Schumer said about it today when asked about it by reporters.
Look, we're going to try and resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Impeachment should never be used to settle policy disagreements.
Oh, really? Can I hear that? I can't even believe he said that.
Impeachment should never be used to settle policy disagreements.
It's not a policy disagreement. It's much more than that. It's that the President of the United States and his designee, Alejandro Mayorkas, who's in charge of Homeland Security, are not following the law. And that's what it's all about. They are turning away from the laws that have been written by Congress. Now, you listen, when Congress writes a law and the president at the time signs it into law, then you don't get to willy-nilly change it or ignore it just because you disagree with the law. I mean, there's a process. If you don't like the law, then you got to go in and you got to change it. But that's not what we're doing. We're doing this in a rather duplicitous manner. We're sending out executive orders say, well, we interpret the law this way. But they're interpreting the laws in ways that Congress never intended. And so Alejandro Mayorkas has been impeached by the House, and the trial apparently is not going to take place in the Senate. And then on top of all that, Schumer, who has actually been active in impeaching, tried to impeach Donald Trump, that whole thing. I remember when that happened. But he says now, when it's a Democrat, well, we don't want impeachment, and we really shouldn't be having impeachment hearings over here in the Senate.
Impeachment should never be used to settle policy disagreements.
Well, House Republicans accuse Mayorkas of high crimes and misdemeanors, including willfully and systemically refusing to comply with the law, and that his breach of the public trust both changes the Department of Homeland Security charges that the Department of Homeland Security strenuously denies. Well, I don't know about you, but have you watched what's happening on the border? I mean, I see what's happening on the border, and it seems to be in violation of what Congress intended. Democrats don't care about this problem. And the fact that they're not willing to give it a shot and at least hear the evidence in a substantial way against Alejandro Mayorkas tells me that they just don't care. And I think they're really going to pay a price for it. I think there's a real penalty here for the Senate now saying we're not going to try this guy, even though the articles of impeachment have been sent over. I can't remember a time where in recent years where articles have been sent over and it just dismissed summarily without even going through at least the effort to make it look like there's going to be a trial. And again, the other thing is what just amazes me is that they are breaking the law. They are allowing our border to be open. They are not protecting the homeland. They're going against everything that a president is supposed to do, which is to keep us safe and to control the borders. They're not doing any of that. In fact, they are encouraging, I think, in many ways, that we go ahead and violate our laws. Come on over. Here's America. I'll give you a piece of paper. You're free to go. That's not, I think, the way it's supposed to run. And you and I know that's the case. It's not supposed to run that way. So one way or the other, this is not going to happen. There will be they'll pull some shenanigans, some legislative shenanigans, and they'll find a way to not have to have the trial. But Schumer's pretty clear. But, he needs to be careful of saying things like this.
Impeachment should never be used to settle policy disagreements.
I just can't believe that. There's a big, over in the House of Representatives right now, we have a situation where I don't know what's going to happen, quite frankly, with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And this all has to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she made the strongest threat yet, according to the Washington Examiner, against the Speaker of the House, sending a letter to her Republican colleagues making a direct pitch as to why Johnson should be removed from the top leadership position. In a scathing 5-page Dear Colleague letter sent to lawmakers today, Greene outlined several instances in which she said Johnson has violated the promises he made when he first elected to lead the conference. Greene did not explicitly say she would move forward with the process to oust Johnson. The letter marks a clear escalation that underscores the strongest threat the Speaker has faced since being elevated to the position, all of 6 months ago. Mike Johnson has unfortunately not lived up to a single one of his self-imposed tenets, Greene wrote in the letter, which was obtained by the Washington Examiner. Rules? What rules? Remember the precious rules? Apparently they no longer matter to Mike Johnson, even though he promised to abide by them and enforce them. Shortly before lawmakers adjourned for their 2-week Easter recess, Greene filed a motion to vacate on the floor of the House in what she called a warning to Johnson. And although the Georgia Republican has not forced action on the measure, the threat looms over Johnson as he considers a path forward on key matters such as Ukraine aid. And that's going to be a controversial one for sure. Greene cited several promises she said Johnson made when he was first elected to Speaker, including a vow to ensure regular order by allowing 72 hours to review bill text and single-subject appropriation bills. And then she pointed out that the two spending packages passed by Congress combined all 12 spending bills into two pieces of legislation that were both passed under a suspension of the rules. You have to have a lot of people to vote on the suspension of the rules, but he got that. She accused Johnson of a completed total surrender, if not complete and total lockstep with the Democrats' agenda that has angered our Republican base so much and given them very little reason to vote for a Republican House majority. Look, man, I tell you what, you go ahead and shove Mike Johnson, who I think, honestly, if he had any options, would probably be one of the most conservative speakers that we've ever had in recent years, maybe going back as far as Newt Gingrich. His record is very conservative. It's an impossible task to be the speaker right now and to keep parts of the Republican caucus in the House happy, because you're only one half of the Congress. You have a Democrat president, you have a Democrat-controlled Senate, and you have a Republican House. And you can either take the chance to shut down the government and let that be on you. And if you close down the government, it would be on Republicans, and everybody would say, in an election year, you say, well, I'm okay with that. Well, okay, maybe you are. But what about all those other people out there, especially people who consider themselves moderates, who you need to vote your direction in the coming election? They're not going to be okay with it. There's no way that you shut down the government without irritating a lot of people. You may be okay with it. I kind of would be okay with it too. But there's a lot of people out there who would not be, and it would really blow back on Republicans as they ran for re-election. And, you have to think about that. So the Speaker of the House made a decision to suspend the rules and pass something. He got a few things. He didn't get as much as he wanted. He was never going to get as much as he wanted because he could either stop it or he could come to a compromise, and he came to a compromise. And there are people over in the House of Representatives who are Republicans who just don't believe in compromise. Otherwise, that was your option. You could compromise or you could shut down the government and all that entailed. And how long would you stand on that principle? How long would you keep the government shut down? Things to consider. 53 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. King & Associates in Insurance in Brentwood has been in Brentwood for about 25 years as an independent agency, and that is a good thing. King Insurance and Associate provides policies for clients' specific needs and not just trying to, throw something at you that they sort of want to, take something that may be a square peg and shove it into a round hole. That's not what they're going to do. They can shop around. They're independent. They're not required to just take one product that they have on the shelf and apply your life to it. They do a search. They find something that may work for you better. The end result is, as an independent agency, you're going to get a lot more insurance bang for your buck. And isn't that what you want? Listen, also, when you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're going to actually hear a person answer the phone. You may be shocked, stunned, and amazed. If you've ever called one of those internet insurance companies and stood on the phone and had to wait for hours and hours to get somebody to answer a simple question, not going to happen. They're going to put you in touch with somebody who can meet your needs, answer your questions so you can get on with your life. You're busy, and they're going to take care of you. They are the kings of multi-policy discounts, 20, 25, 30, 35%. You can save a lot of money. So why don't you get your royal review with King & Associates Insurance? Just log into tkinginsurance.com. Again, that's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates. You get royal treatment and great rates.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, They want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Going to be a bit more time on the Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment. Possible legislation here in Tennessee revolving around guns in the school being held by teachers, crime in Tennessee, and an update on the Francis Scott Key Bridge replacement there in Maryland. All at 4, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you very much. Time to look at the markets, see how they closed. Dow Jones Industrials down just a little bit, down about 9 points. S&P up about 7. NASDAQ up about 52. So a mixed board today, but a lot of interest and some inflation numbers that have come down. Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management for more on that. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, the market was down for the better part of today and then finished up a little bit on two of the indexes, but really everything is about the Consumer Price Index report, which is really a key monthly report that's going to be coming out tomorrow morning. The Fed is going to be watching that really closely along with Wall Street because of everything that has to do with inflation. Last month, that came in at 3.2%. It's expected to accelerate to 3.4% because of gas prices. If we get a number above that, could be negative for the market. Below could be really positive. The Fed continues to say we're going to see 3 rate cuts. Wall Street's become less convinced because inflation has been pretty sticky. So that report comes out at 8:30 Eastern. It's going to be key to the day tomorrow and the rest of the week.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. Find out all the things that John Maxon and the good people at Beacon Capital Management could do for you. Simply go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 4 o'clock now on Super Talk. All right, I want you to be honest with me. Are you happy with your weight? I decidedly was not happy with mine. I started regaining weight that I lost last year, and I'm tired of the yo-yo thing, right? I decided to do something about it. Now, I've never taken on a weight loss client before, but I'm impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon developed for me. See, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took a look at my history, my lifestyle, and suggested an approach that is starting to show some real results. And amazingly, I'm not hungry, which is good. I don't like being hungry. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are very happy with the results. We both have noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Here's the number, 615-470-8124, and you can learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 62 degrees right now in Nashville and the possibility for showers and storms later on tonight. Traffic complete weather forecast 5 minutes away. Starting in the nation's capital, House Speaker Mike Johnson says Republicans will not transmit articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas tomorrow as they'd planned. Instead, Johnson says they'll do it next week. Stephen Portnoy explains why.
The transmittal of the articles will trigger a debate on the Senate floor about whether to hold a trial, kick the case to committee, or dismiss the charges against Alejandro Mayorkas right away. Many Democrats would prefer that last option, and the concern Republicans have is if the debate slides toward the end of the week, some GOP members might leave town and miss a vote. Republican unanimity in the 51-49 Senate is the best way of ensuring that a trial takes place on charges that Democrats consider to be partisan and bogus.
Here in Tennessee, possible legislation. The Tennessee Senate passed a bill that would arm teachers with concealed guns in schools. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik outside the Tennessee chambers.
Behind me here, this is a group of dozens of moms, parents, and people who do not want this bill to pass. This is a bill that could potentially arm teachers and staff members inside schools. Now, this group is actually just kicked out from the gallery upstairs in the Senate, and they were brought back down here, and they're watching what they can from this TV. Now, if passed, this bill would arm staff members in a school if they get the required training, like background checks and psychological evaluations. Republicans say there is a lot of misinformation about this bill, and staff will only carry a concealed handgun if they want to go through the training. But Democrats say this would be a major liability.
And that group behind Sulik began chanting, "Vote him out." The bill passed in the Senate, 26 votes for, 5 votes against. Crime in Tennessee, a man and a woman both killed in a shooting last night. This happened in downtown Clarksville. Officials reported to a home on the 600 block of Martin Street found 30-year-old Savannah Lumpkin and 26-year-old Glenn Nicholson deceased at the scene. The incident's being investigated, and anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. In Maryland, the governor and Democratic members of its congressional delegation meeting today in Washington with the transportation secretary. They're pushing for the federal government to pay the bill for that collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge's replacement. Dave Packer.
Maryland's governor and members of the state's congressional delegation meeting in Washington with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and calling for
100% federal funds in regards to the costs related to the destruction and replacement of the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Maryland Senator Ben Cardin.
This is not unprecedented. The 100% was used in regards to the Minnesota bridge replacement.
Cardin says he's introducing a bill to ensure federal funding for a new bridge.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 10 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in for hour number 2 of The Drive. Glad you're with us on this rather gloomy gray Tuesday, April 9th. But, we're going to try to keep you informed, and I'll throw out some ideas that I have about whatever's going on in the world around us. So just settle back in. We'll get you home safely. And I know that this is a story that has been talked about endlessly. I find myself in the position of addressing a story where everything perhaps has been said, but not everyone has yet said it. And I was out of pocket yesterday, but I have to go back and revisit this whole thing involving country star Morgan Wallen. How many times in the history of Nashville, since we became the home of country music, have we witnessed this kind of scenario time and time and time again? And it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. We know that there's going to be a bad outcome here if something is not really, really done to grab the attention of Morgan Wallen. Now, if you have been gone and been on, haven't been paying attention to the news, Morgan Wallen was over the weekend arrested for allegedly throwing a chair off the top of a bar down on Lower Broad. The Chief, it's called. And he was there, and he was, one understands from the narrative, he's been partying, having a time, but things spiraled out of control at some point, and for reasons that are not too clear, there is a video that seems to show Morgan Wallen throwing a chair off the top, and it landed on the ground below, missing several Nashville police officers who were standing nearby. He has been charged with 3 felony counts and released on a $15,250 bond. This is not good, ladies and gentlemen. And you say, well, just had a bad day. No, I can't forgive him, especially after the fact that we've all sort of, granted him one pass already for the incident that was where he would used, the inappropriate language, the N-word. And I understand. A lot of people say, well, he was just quoting the lyrics of a song. He was talking to his friends. He was very drunk. Well, you know what? I fell for it once. I fell for it. I said, okay, let's give the young man a chance. It was a bad moment, and everybody is entitled to have a bad moment. Let's not judge him entirely on this one moment. He's a very talented young man, and he's got a great career ahead of him. And then I thought Morgan Wallen did exactly the thing he should have done. He put in the time. He wanted to make sure that everybody understood. He understood how badly he had acted. And he met with the right people, and he talked to the right people, and he took some time away. And all of this happened. And then, you know what? For a while, he was sort of banned and from appearing on the big country shows on television. But slowly but surely, methodically, because he seemed to be sincere and he seemed to be working through the issue, he was allowed to come back in. You know what I think? I have to wonder, though, how much of it was, his sincerity and having worked through the issue and trying to do the right thing to make amends, and how much of it was, well, we don't want to shut down this moneymaker who makes a lot of money in Nashville and is probably one of the biggest names in country music right now. People say, well, he's a young man. He's 30 years old. In what world is it okay for a 30-year-old man to get drunk and throw a chair off the top of a building several stories below where people could have been injured or even perhaps killed? How is that okay in any world? It's not okay. And so we had one strike, and this is strike number 2. But I don't think you get a third strike in today's world. Sure, I know back in the day, the stories are replete of country stars who got drunk and did stupid things. But, back in the day, you could hush it up. You could cover it up. You could, there was sort of an understanding, well, these country artists, they live a different life than you and I. And then there wasn't social media. There wasn't a camera in everybody's pocket. And so, unless there was a picture, there really probably wasn't a big story about it. And a lot of things, let's just say, in Nashville, in old Nashville, got sort of wiped sort of under the rug, pushed under the rug. Let's not look too closely at this. That's not the way it is anymore. Morgan Wallen committed a horrible crime, I think, something that could have led to the death of a police officer or worse. It could have hurt people who were down below, police officers, passersby. And so he goes to jail and he gets a $15,000 bond, which is like just a rap on the knuckles, and is released from Davidson County Jail. And now we're told that, well, by his lawyer, the only thing they'll say is that he's cooperating fully with authorities. I think that here in official Nashville, in country music circles, there needs to be an intervention in this young man's life, because the problem pretty clearly seems to be alcohol, drinking too much and doing things that are irresponsible. There's the pattern. There's the pattern. And if somebody doesn't step up and work with this young man and get him on the right path and help him to understand that alcohol is something that he should avoid at all costs, we all know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time until there'll be another incident, another accident. There'll be hints and allegations, the whole 9 yards. My suggestion, Morgan, is that you take some time off. And there are people in this town who know what you've been through and know what it is to go from being, a young performer to a superstar, making millions of dollars. It's a heady ride, but you are not above the law, and you've got a problem with alcohol, and you need to get some professional help here. I don't care that you have a big Nashville Stadium tour coming up May 2nd through the May 4th. You need time off. You need time away from it. And a serious intervention needs to take place. Who in Nashville will step up? I know there are people who can help you, get you down the right path. Make sure that, this problem that you have with alcohol is put behind you. You've got 2 strikes against you, Morgan. 2 strikes against you. And the commonality between the strike number 1 and strike number 2 appears to be alcohol. You can't deal with it. You can't deal with it alone. You need help. And I pray that Morgan Wallen gets the help that he needs, because he's got 2 strikes against him, and 3rd strike, he's out. If you even get a 3rd strike. You need to be, you need a little humility in your life, a little soul searching, a little understanding that you have made a real mess of this thing. And you're just, by the grace of God, lucky that somebody wasn't seriously hurt by your erratic and irresponsible actions. I'm tired of seeing this kind of stuff swept under the rug. And, okay, well, he'll take a week off, and then he'll say that he's sorry and that he's going to seek some help. We need to see real evidence. Check yourself in somewhere. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, my friend, because you are so close to blowing it. We love what you do musically. We love the music that you provide, and we're happy to be a part of all that, but not if all that comes with that is the destruction of your life. Let's not watch this happen again in Nashville. There are a lot of people in Nashville who understand what it is to go through what Morgan Wallen is going through, and they've come out okay on the other side. And I pray that somebody who can get his attention, and it has to be somebody who really he respects, can come to him and help him understand the seriousness of the problem that he has, and get him into rehab, get him fixed, get him into a 9-step program, or 12-step program. Make sure that he understands that this can never happen again. And you know what? If he does a little jail time, it might be the best thing for him. He could do as much as 6 years in jail. I don't think anybody's going to give him 6 years, but a little time behind bars might actually get the man's attention in a way that no one has been able to get his attention until now. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Stoltz Co., good people. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are the two guys that you got to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. And that, my friends, is the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a tool or a work barn, a garage. Have you ever heard of a barn dominium? Yeah, that's what that is. A lot of people like them. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So go to their website, stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com. And then when you see the things that they have done for other people, I know you're going to want to call them. Here's the number, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco. That's STOLTZCO. Learn more at stoltzco.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
A date now set for Israeli forces to go into Rafah, plus our money news report. Taking it from Wall Street, 4:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
That's right. Time for a crazy Democrat update. We haven't had one of these in a long time. But the Democrats are still crazy. They're saying crazy stuff out there. So why don't we just investigate a few of them, shall we? How about Pete Buttigieg? Pete Buttigieg is making an appearance on MSNBC, And he's asked a question about, crime going up and in the nation's capital, especially where he lives. They have a serious crime problem. I mean, they tried, to do all this, liberalization of police policies and tried to, at some point, they were actually talking about taking money away from police. But they found out real quick that if you don't have police, crime gets out of control. But Buttigieg was pushing back on that notion in this appearance on MSNBC.
But the simple facts and the simple reality are right here staring us in the face, including the fact that I can safely walk my dog to the Capitol today in a way that you couldn't do when we all got here.
So Pete Buttigieg wants you to know that he can safely walk his dog to the Capitol with no issues whatsoever, suggesting that, well, maybe all this talk about crime in D.C. is a hype. He left out one little factoid in that. Pete Buttigieg has a security team around him at all times. Armed security is always with him. Yeah, I mean, he likes to ride his bike, and the security team has to ride the bike with him. He wants to walk his dog, the security team goes with him. He is never without his security team. Easy to walk the streets of Washington, D.C. when the guy next to you is packing heat. It's just another example of how Democrats, they just don't see it. Well, if you and I could all, and by the way, you can't easily carry a weapon on the streets of D.C. to defend yourself. It's still difficult to do. But, again, Democrats, they don't see the things that we're all going through. This next piece of tape is perhaps the dumbest thing I've heard from an elected official in quite some time. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheila Jackson Lee speaking to a group of young people, what appears to be a high school graduation, and she's the guest speaker. And this is what she said regarding the moon.
You have the energy of the moon at night, and sometimes you've heard the word full moon.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle.
Okay.
Which is made up mostly of gases.
What?
And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that?
The moon is made out of, did I hear that right?
Which is made up mostly of gases.
The moon is made out of gases.
I thought it was made of cheese.
Where in the world did she get the idea that the moon was a gas planet? She believes the moon is made of gases, not out of rock and dirt. Well, it's unbelievable. This reminds me, this is so dumb. It reminds me of another incident. I mean, this may be the dumbest thing since Hank Johnson worried that an island was going to tip over because the military had a base there.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
So this is a House hearing, and Hank Johnson is addressing a general.
An admiral.
Yeah. An admiral. And he's talking about, Guam. I think it's the island of Guam is what he's talking about.
Yes.
Said, you got a Navy base there, and I'm so worried that with all this military equipment that you're putting into the military base, that the island may tip over and sink. I mean, that's right up there with Sheila Jackson Lee.
Which is made up mostly of gases.
The moon is made of gases. Okay, you go with that. Along the same line, Sunny Hostin is not, I guess it's Hostin. Sunny Hostin, on The View. She's a real trip. She's talking about, the moon and the eclipse and all the things that have been going on, and seems to think that it all has to do with climate change.
I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful makeup artist, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on, and she was like, Jesus is coming. I'm out. I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
What? The cicadas?
Cicadas.
Cicadas.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
First
Whoopi.
time in like
No,
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read.
There's
Two different times.
Two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas
and
the bad.
But for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists, or some.
The climate change exists. So it's the earthquake, which you can't predict, the eclipse, which you can predict. And apparently she's very concerned about the emergence of cicadas, and she thinks it's all cicadas. Cicadas. And Whoopa's right. There are two kinds of cicadas. There are the annual kind, and then there's the 17-year variety, and we are going to have a big emergence of the 17-year variety. But now she believes that's all a sign that, in fact, it's climate change.
Would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists,
It exists.
or something is returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
No.
It can't.
It happens, and the eclipse. They've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
Well, Whoopi trying to educate her.
I would think Whoopi would be the voice of reason.
Now, what a rare moment. It's 31 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
.432, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 62 degrees in Nashville. Possibility for storms and showers later on today and really the rest of this week till we get to Friday. We'll see that sun really poke itself back out. Full forecast and a traffic report just ahead 5 minutes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that a date has been set for his forces to go into Rafah, even as the U.S. warns that and urges more cooperation to protect civilians. U.S. officials say they aren't aware of the date, but are still having active conversations about alternate plans to fight Hamas in that area of Gaza. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at the White House press briefing today.
We have been very clear about our deep and abiding concerns about a Rafah operation and our belief that there are better ways to deal with the strategic threat Hamas poses than some of the ideas that have been put forward, and our further belief that any kind of plan to protect civilians in a serious way in Rafah, that's something we have yet to see be presented to us, and so our concerns continue.
Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger fills us in on Wall Street today.
Stocks closed ahead of a major report on inflation. The Dow fell 9 points, the Nasdaq added 53, and the S&P rose 8. Investors are a little jittery a day before the anticipated Consumer Price Index, which shows what we're paying for just about everything month to month and year over year. It's followed a day later by the Producer Price Index, which measures inflation on the wholesale level. Norfolk Southern's agreed to pay $600 million to settle a class action lawsuit for last year's toxic train derailment. Residents of East Palestine, Ohio say they're worried the money won't amount to much once it's divided up among all who opt in. Thousands of out-of-work Americans aren't looking for a new job. They're turning to online content creation. TikTok is reporting a 15% growth in user monetization, but experts warn it takes time, energy, and resources to turn that content into a successful career.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
You know, the chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path, and you know they're not going to pay off the $34 trillion debt anytime soon. They just print more money to pay interest on the debt and thus weaken the U.S. dollar. Maybe it's time for you to invest in something real and tangible, like gold or silver or precious metals. Maybe you want to add that to your portfolio, but you feel like, you don't have the knowledge you need to make a smart decision. Well, that's the way I felt, but I got the professional guidance I needed at Nashville Gold & Coin. The way this works is you make an appointment and then you sit down one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Gold & Coin. They'll answer all your questions and help you make the precious metals investment that's right for you. It's friendly. You'll learn a lot. You'll never be subjected to a high-pressure sales pitch. And you know, gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. My friends at Nashville Gold & Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. And by the way, if you have some old coins lying around, bring them along. You may be surprised at how much they're worth. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It's 39 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Gosh, we just got a little bit of sad news. I have not yet found the story. Chris, you spotted up on it. The news apparently that, he's been a fixture on television commercials in Nashville, I think, for decades.
Yeah.
And a man who is, probably one of the most recognizable images in Nashville is attorney Bart Durham, who runs an injury law firm with his son. Apparently, the news coming out, the sad news that Bart Durham has passed.
Yeah, 89 years old. I found this on from News Channel 5. It was a quote from his son Blair that it is with deep sorrow and a burdened heart that I share the news of the passing of my father, Bart Durham, a legendary figure in the local legal community and a beloved patriarch to our family.
Well, there you go. Sad news coming in, and that we credit that to Channel 5. Again, Bart Durham, a fixture on television commercials, the man who led a personal injury law firm for ages in this town. I mean, when I first came to town, I remember seeing all the commercials, and people told me, this guy's been doing commercials like that, for years and years and years and years. He was a well-known fixture in this community, in the legal community, and of course, many people knew him simply because of the ads that he ran with his son.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
the passing of Bart Durham announced by his son today. We'll try to get some more information on that. I guess we'll do a 2024 election update because we haven't done one of those in a while. And let's just get right to it. The Biden campaign is apparently panicking. I mean, there are signs that they're not happy about the way things are going, and you hear a lot of grumbling among Democrats that Joe Biden is, he's not doing the things he needs to do to be reelected, and the numbers are not good when you look at the polls. And so, apparently, rather than work on the issues, Biden just says, you know what, I don't like the poll results. I guess I'll get me a new pollster. That's the way to go about it. They hired new pollsters, according to Politico. The Biden campaign hired 8 veteran pollsters to lead its number-crunching operation. The outlet explained that the expansion of Biden's polling team comes at a complicated moment given Biden's stubbornly low approval ratings and pollsters' struggles to measure the electorate accurately in the past 2 presidential races. It's unclear how adding to their stable of pollsters will help make the president more popular. Now, look, I know a lot of you, have real doubts about polls, but let me just tell you something. The politicians do polling because they do trust them. They want to know where they are with the American electorate. Now, have they always been perfect? No, they're not been perfect. But, when you have like 25 or 30 good polling institutions in the United States, and they all start to show basically the same thing, at least they show the same trend, you've got to pay attention. And so what we've been seeing in the polls lately is that Biden is losing black voters. Biden is losing Hispanic voters. Biden is losing young voters to a tremendous amount. I mean, a great number of young people between the ages of, 18 and let's say 35 are leaving the Democrat column and saying that they're actively saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump. That would be a tremendous change. And there are polls after polls that show this. And the Biden administration has got to be panicked, absolutely panicked by that and by the fact that his approval numbers are so low. And that the Democrats are on the wrong side of the issues that seem to be resonating with Americans. They're concerned about the economy. Donald Trump does well on that question. They're concerned about inflation. Donald Trump does well on that issue. They're very concerned about immigration. Donald Trump has much higher numbers than does Biden on how that can be handled, and the American people have trust in Donald Trump to handle that. And the only thing that the Democrats have got going for them right now is the issue of abortion. And with any luck at all, the things that Donald Trump said the other day will make that a non-issue in the coming election. He's already said where he's going to stand on that, and it really took away the one big talking point that Democrats had that would resonate with a significant portion of the electorate. So they're in real trouble, and so they're high. But I tell you, the one that really surprises me is that so many young people. Traditionally, the old joke was young people are Democrats until they go out and start to earn a living, and then they become Republicans. When they find out what the world is really all about, and they see that tax money coming out of their paycheck and going to Washington, they become a lot more conservative suddenly. It's a thing that has happened for years. But now young people, completely disenchanted with what's going on with the Biden administration, are leaving. Well, I'll tell you what they've said about it. They say that the numbers are horrific. That's what the Democrats have said. They're horrific to see the numbers. And that's why Joe Biden is doing everything he can to buy the vote of young people. He's literally trying to bribe young people into coming back into the Democrat column. How is it? Well, by his continual efforts to try to pay off student loan debt, which he doesn't, I think, have the authority to do. That the Supreme Court said that. Joe Biden doesn't care what the Supreme Court says. He even brags about the fact that he's doing everything he can to reduce student loan debt.
Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us.
Well, hold on a minute. You're blaming the Republicans for asking you to follow the law? There's nothing wrong with asking you to follow the law. You're trying to blame the Republicans for this? The Supreme Court looked at it. The Supreme Court decided you can't do the thing that you want to do. Joe Biden didn't care.
But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives paths to reduce student debt payments.
And they are. They're trying to find workarounds. Despite what the Supreme Court has said, despite the one-time position of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi that you can't do the things that you want to do with regard to reducing student loan debt without Congress taking action, he's just going to go out there and find some way to do it. It's nothing more than a blatant attempt to buy young voters votes for the coming election. Look what you get your student loan debt canceled. You get a nice letter, comes in the mail to your house, and you open it up. It's from the President of the United States. Look what I did for you. I got rid of your student loan debt. If you're somebody out there with a sizable student loan debt, you say, well, that's pretty good. I like Joe Biden now. He is using the levers of government. Even worse, he's using taxpayer dollars to essentially buy votes for the coming election. It's just not right. This is again, not only weaponization of a government, which we see all the time with this administration. This is weaponization of your tax dollars. So, all the people in America who decided not to go to college, you're now, paying for the student loan debt that is out there. And if you went to college like I did, like my daughter did, and we actually paid our debts. We actually paid our way through college. We actually paid any student loans that we had because we felt it was the right thing to do. Because, I understand what a loan is. You take out a loan, you pay back that amount with interest. That's what a loan is. But not in Joe Biden's world. He's going to take the taxpayers' dollars and pay for the debt, and you're going to be paying for somebody else's student debt to be canceled. Not right. I think ultimately, there's going to be a lot of people who may be really thrilled by the fact that Joe Biden has taken away their student loan debt. But I think there's going to be a lot more who are just hacked off about it, completely PO'd, and I'm certainly among them. I feel like what a chump. Why did I bother to pay for my student loan back? It was hard to do, and I did it. But I did the responsible thing when my daughter went to college, and that I went and actually saved the money so that when she was ready to go to college, she could go to college and never have to worry about it. And I'm telling you, I was proud to have done that, but now I feel like what a chump. Why didn't I just borrow the money and then have it all given back? Joe Biden would have, done away with that debt. What a chump. I think it angers a lot of people who paid off their loans. I think it angers a lot of people who did not go to college. I think it angers a lot of people who don't like the idea of having their taxpayer dollars being used in such a way to pay off somebody who made an obligation. You said you took the money and you understood what a loan was. I mean, after all, you went to college. Don't you know what a loan is? Have you looked up the definition of a loan? Why do you think that you should be able to skate on this debt that you incurred? It's not the way it works in the real world, but it does in Joe Biden's world, and it's nothing more. I swear to you, it's nothing more than a blatant attempt to try to buy the votes because he's really, really panicked that he's going to lose so many young people. I hope it backfires on him because I think it angers a lot more people than it ameliorates. Wow. I just wish that there was some way that I could get that money back that I gave the government. I feel like such an idiot. Why did I do that? You don't have any comment about me being an idiot? I figured you'd jump in on that.
No, I'm all right.
All right, good. People are going to, I think this is going to backfire. I hope it does. In the meantime, He's, I think, defying the Supreme Court, and he's being challenged by 7 states who say you can't do this. But by the time it's all adjudicated and makes its way to the Supreme Court, guess what? He will have already done it. Too late. 50 minutes now past the hour. Beacon Capital Management has an annual shred day coming up on Saturday the 20th. That's about 11 days from now. Just go to their Beacon Capital Management parking lot and bring anything you need to shred. Now, you say, well, what is this all about? Well, it's 5 days after tax day. That's right. By the way, tax day, not that far off. Get busy. But, I mean, if you have documents at the end of it all that you just want to shred and get rid of, this is a good time to do it. Just show up and hand them the documents, and you can watch them, put them into the shredder for you, and you can leave assured that those documents are gone for good. You can also, by the way, discover the retirement savings potential in less than 30 seconds by going to Beacon Capital Management's free retirement savings calculator. It's a simple step-by-step calculator. You'll get results very, very quickly. And when you realize, oh, my goodness, I'm a little behind here, why don't you then give them a call and go by and see them? Here's the number, 615-488-9303. Set up an appointment, have them talk you through it, find out what they can do to get you back on track to make sure that you're going to retire with enough money in the bank that you can be comfortable. That's really that's a big worry for a lot of people. You have nothing to lose in this whole process except for the worry. Again, that number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. You can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
A bill that would arm teachers in the classroom passes the Tennessee Senate now on its way to the House. A crime story here in Tennessee, and FBI director outlining his most wanted threats in the United States. 5 o'clock Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah. But Sheila Jackson Lee believes it's made of gas.
You have the energy of the moon at night, and sometimes you've heard the word full moon. And sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases.
It is.
And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that?
Sheila Jackson Lee, teaching science to high school graduates. It's 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 61 degrees and cloudy in Nashville. Traffic, complete weather forecast in 5 minutes. Possible legislation in Tennessee. The Tennessee Senate passed a bill that would arm teachers with concealed guns in schools. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik outside the Tennessee Senate chambers.
We saw dozens of people outside the Senate chambers here begging and pleading lawmakers not to pass this bill. They did end up passing the piece of legislation in the end, which caused some people to almost charge at the Senate doors trying to get in. Now, this is what happened when Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally told people in the gallery to leave. It came after multiple outbursts, but the one that sent them away was after Democratic Senator Ramesh Akbari asked the bill's sponsor, Senator Paul Bailey, if parents would know which staff members are carrying concealed guns. He responded saying they wouldn't, and the gallery erupted.
And this bill still needs to pass the House before it becomes law. The bill passed in the Senate 26-4 and 5 votes against. Crime right now in Tennessee. News 2 says that Franklin County officials are looking for 2 men who allegedly robbed a market at gunpoint over the weekend. The men reportedly demanded the clerks open the register and that one of them even hit the clerk with his handgun. The men reportedly stole $725 from the register. Suspect 1, described as having a small stature, was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt with black jogging pants, black shoes, and a black beanie. Suspect 2, a bit bigger, was last seen wearing a black sweatshirt, black North Face jogging pants, black shoes, and multicolor underwear. Anyone with information is asked to call police. And today, FBI Director Christopher Wray outlining the top threats the U.S. is facing. He says hostile nations are getting more aggressive. Front and center is China. Wray calls China the defining threat of our generation. Perry Russum is in Washington.
FBI Director Christopher Wray says China's hacking program is larger than every other major nation combined. He says if you took every single one of the FBI cyber agents and intelligence analysts and focused them exclusively on China,
China's hackers would still outnumber FBI cyber personnel by at least 50 to 1.
Today, Wray also noting Russia and Iran as top threats. He says terrorism remains the FBI's #1 priority.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It is 6 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. You're listening to The Drive on this 9th day of April. It is gloomy and a little wet out there, so get home safely so we can you can spend some time with the fam. In the meantime, I'll bring you some news and information so that you'll be well informed for that sit-down conversation at dinner. Talk about world events, and teach the kids a few things. There are two stories, local stories, that I think we need to mention again. The one has been confirmed. Longtime Nashville injury lawyer Bart Durham has died, and he was 89 years old. He was the founder of the personal injury law firm Bart, Durham Injury Law. He moved to the city in 1969 and started his firm in 1975. And I think since about that time, well, since they started allowing lawyers to advertise on TV, he's been a fixture on Nashville airwaves along with his son, Blair, and apparently has passed away. That's confirmed by his son, Blair. It's with deep sorrow and a burdened heart that I share the news of the passing of my father, Bart Durham, a legendary figure in the local legal community and a beloved patriarch to our family. Beyond being the founding force and public face of Bart Durham Injury Law, he was at its core a dedicated husband, father, and grandfather. His tireless commitment to justice, unparalleled work ethic, and boundless generosity have left an enduring impact on our family, our firm, and the countless lives he touched. His dad's journey from a modest small-town upbringing to a distinguished advocate for the underserved stands as a testament to his unyielding dedication. He served in the Army, excelling in legal practices and fearlessly championing the cause of personal injury victims. His legacy reaches far beyond the legal realm. Bart Durham, who has literally been a fixture on television since they started to allow people in the legal profession to advertise on television. He's been there, it seems. And people have been watching his commercials for years. It's almost as if you feel like you know the guy, you know? So anyway, sad news, that confirmed by his son, Blair. The other story that happened today is that there was a vote 26-5 to approve a bill in the Senate. The Senate has passed a bill that would allow teachers who go through a whole series of have to jump through a series of hoops to do it, but they can be allowed to carry concealed weapon on campus of the school. And it was not popular. There were some people in the gallery, a gathering of moms who were against the idea, who protested.
We're going to try and resolve this issue.
Excuse me, that is the absolute wrong bite. Let me see if I can find it here. I know I had it. Oh, here it is. This is what it sounded like when they were protesting. But in fact, the teachers were thrown out of the gallery. Well, in a nice way. They were escorted out by the state troopers who were there. But the vote went forward, and it passed by a vote of 26-5. It was really a party line vote. The House version of the bill is sitting idle on the desk, meaning it's on hold and can be brought up this legislative session, but it's not dead. But the question is, will they be able to bring it up? I had a brief textual conversation with William Lambert, the majority leader of the House, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, it's on hold. I'm sure they will release the hold, but it still has to pass the House again, and it passed the vote in the House. And he said, but the question is, will we be able to squeeze it in, because the docket or the agenda for the House is pretty full between now and the anticipated time that they will adjourn. So not clear, I would say, at this hour whether or not it will actually pass the House and go to the governor's desk, but it has passed the Senate. Now, for those wanting to carry, they have to go through several steps to do so. This according to News Channel 5. Teachers wanting to carry will have to get an enhanced carry permit, need to get written authorization from the superintendent and the principal and law enforcement. Right there, you may find a lot of principals and superintendents, especially in Nashville schools, for example, would say no. You must complete 40 hours of basic training in school policing and 40 hours of post-commission approved training that is specific to school policing each year in order to keep the authorization. You must obtain a background check. You must undergo a psychological exam conducted by a Tennessee licensed psychologist. Those carrying would also have immunity from any financial damages. Parents will not know which teachers are armed, meaning a child's teacher could carry, but the parents would not know. Regarding the portion of confidentiality, that's because of the element of surprise. If you're a possible intruder, you don't know if the person you encounter is an authorized faculty or staff member. That maybe will change the mind about coming in. I think, actually, I wish they would just post it on a sign outside. People in this building are armed and will defend the lives of the children in this school at all costs. That's what I would put out there. How the conversation went among lawmakers. Democrats voted against the bill. Predictably, Republicans voted for it. So, what happens now? Listen, we ran sort of an informal poll in our program when we opened up at 3 o'clock because it was just happening then. By and large, I think a lot of people like this bill and are for it and have no problems with it. I actually wonder, though, when I look at the kind of hoops you have to jump through. I mean, think about this. 40 hours of basic training in school policing and 40 hours of post-commission approved training. That's 80 hours a year you have to commit to doing training every year. The rest of it seems like things you could work through. And again, nobody would know that you're carrying. It would be sort of a well-kept secret between you, the principal, the superintendent, and the local police authority, whether that's a sheriff or a police chief, depending on whether it's in a county or in a city. And so, that measure, I don't know what's going to happen to it, but it is at least past the Senate. And I would say, I'm not sure. I don't know. Based on my conversation, I'm not sure it's going to get put up for consideration before the House adjourns. We need to get some people, some of our legislative leaders on. We haven't had them on in a while to bring us up to speed. There's the other thing that's pending is the governor's education package and see where that is. I think there's some behind-the-scenes wrangling. The governor, when we talked to him not long ago, said he thought that he was fine with the way things were going, and he was deeply involved in the process of negotiation. But ultimately, you have a very different House and Senate bill, and a lot of things that you have to sort of work out, and let's see how that goes. So we're getting down to not much time left in the state legislature this session. Here's another story on it. Tennessee Senate passed the bill that would arm teachers with concealed guns in schools, passed 26-5. Tennessee Senate discussing the bill Tuesday. During the hearing, there were dozens of moms in the gallery standing outside the Senate with signs opposing the bill. It would not require but would allow people who work at schools to carry a concealed weapon on school property. But you have to go through, as we mentioned, a great number of hoops. You have to check in with the school, have to check in with the superintendent. You have to check in with the local police authority, whatever that is, 80 hours, psychological background test. That's a lot of hoops to jump through. So I don't know how many people actually would take advantage of it, but we'll see what happens. We'll watch closely and try to get some sense of what's going to happen with regard to that in the Senate. I listen, what we know is this. Sadly, in the Covenant shooting and other kinds of shootings, school shootings that we have known about, things happen pretty quickly. In the Covenant shooting, not to dredge up a bunch of painful memories, but the shooter went through the front door like it was butter, like a hot knife through butter, because there was no bulletproof glass. So the shooter shot out the glass and was able to get in very quickly. And then we are told reliably by people who have done a pretty interesting analysis of how it went down that day, that 6 people were killed within 3 minutes. The police did not arrive for another 5 minutes. So if my calculation of arrival times is correct, it took about 8 minutes from the time the call went out to the time the police arrived on the scene. So when things happen that quickly, and that the police are going to be minutes away, I think that I would want, as a parent, I would want to know that there was somebody in that school willing to try to make a difference in that particular, have some kind of impact on that outcome. Again, I'm not sure when I look at this that all the people that might be interested in doing it would actually go to the trouble of doing it. It's a bunch of hassle to do it, but maybe some would. And I think I would want that option. If I was in charge of a school system, I would have some confidence that people I knew and trusted, people that I'd signed off on, were there as, a worst case scenario. If something happens, there would be at least somebody with the ability to do something about it instead of just wait until the police arrive. It's not to say that the police weren't brave that day. They were very brave. They from the time they arrived to the time they eliminated the threat was about 2 minutes and change. I mean, remarkably good work by the police department, but it still takes a while to get there. I like this idea. I hope there are those who would be willing to do it, and I hope the House picks it up, and I hope they run with it. But there's an awful lot going on in the state legislature right now, and it'll be interesting to see whether they can squeeze it in, and then it will go to the governor's desk and see if the governor will sign it. Again, I think I want it. I would like to know that there was some option other than just cowering until the police arrived. Let's call it 18 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about the folks over at USS. You know, they're known for their structural work. If you have structural problems in your house, you got the cracking bricks and all that, you know, you need to call them. But there's another thing to think about, and that's if you have water issues. Water could cause a lot of problems in your house. Do you have standing water in your crawl space? You have wet basement walls, musty odor or floor joists with wood rot, cracks in basement floors, hardwood floors that are cupping because of all of the humidity coming from underneath. Well, these are all signs that your house is trying to tell you something. And putting off a moisture issue in your home is bad for your health and could lead to more expensive repairs down the road. Why don't you call the folks at United Structural Systems? They'll come out, they'll take a look at your situation, they will give you some advice, tell you what they think you should do, and if you decide to go forward, and I think you probably will, you're not going to pay a penny until the job is done and you are well satisfied. At USS, they guarantee their best, so call USS at 615-488-7855. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
A date set now for when Israeli forces will go into Rafah. Transgender sports right here in Tennessee. Transgenders in sports in Tennessee. And birth control drug and the Women's National Basketball Association teaming up. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
It's time for Mac Morey's Wide, well, I understand it's Weird, Wacky World of Sports. I mean, every day gets a different name. And here's the host of your program. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. It's Mac Morey, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Good to have our good and handy host back.
Well, yeah, I was
Wait,
listening.
I thought you were the host, Mac.
You're the host of this segment. I'm somebody.
True.
I go, and then what? That's what I do. And then what? No, I was coming back yesterday from the. I gave you a little extra time here today.
You did.
I did. You notice I gave you a little extra time here because I was listening yesterday as I was coming back from the Eclipse, and I was way back up in the hills there listening to WTN on the radio, and apparently there was a scintillating discussion about hat sizes, and I thought, well, we might need extra time for that.
Yeah, that took over quite the first half
Got
of the
a little
discussion.
derailed there.
I said, is there any time left for sports?
Yeah.
I learned a lot about hat sizes.
That was a sports hat.
Yeah, it's a sports hat.
Wearing a hat backwards, I didn't know that there was that much to it.
No,
But, I'm glad we covered that.
Yeah, we got that covered. Exactly. We covered the only the breaking news here on
because there's nothing going on in the world of sports
Exactly,
right now,
right?
is there? No. Go ahead. What are we talking about today?
We only had a championship game played in March Madness yesterday.
Oh, there was that.
There was
Okay.
that. Exactly. The lesser talked about championship game. The women's side seemed to get way more attention here from the Elite Eight on than the men's side. And part of that is just because, well, the men's side is pretty much a wash. UConn took care of everyone within their path. It was a close game at halftime. I think 6 or 8 point game at halftime with UConn in the lead. And then 75-60 is the final score. They were up 20 later on in the game. I mean, this team just got everything.
How does it happen that you have a team that is so much better than every other basketball team in the entire United States?
Man,
what is it that they're doing?
Well, they're keeping talent. That's part of it. I mean, you look at these guys. I mean, Klingen's a senior. You got Newton, who's a junior. Caravan's a sophomore. Spencer is, oh my gosh, Cam Spencer, a transfer there who just was all over the floor on defense last night in the face of every Purdue Boilermaker guard, making their lives so difficult. They've got seniority. They actually are able to keep a team there and build chemistry. It's like the college basketball game that we loved back in the day.
You don't see that anymore.
You don't. You got schools like Kentucky and Duke, North Carolina. These guys are pumping out 5-star 19-year-olds time and time again, and they're going on the NBA, and that looks great on a program. But as far as your success, it'll waver, and it'll wither away if you don't have that chemistry, that team is actually a unit. They've been through thick and thin. They lost a tournament in their freshman year, and they watched the seniors go through a rough time, and now they're the seniors, and now they've got a freshman class behind them that they're leading. I mean, it's so rare that we see that, and UConn has that in droves, and they were able to show that last night. And UConn really vaults themselves up now as the best college basketball program today. I mean, there's really no argument. They back-to-back national championships. They're the first number one overall seed to win since 2013. That was Louisville. First back-to-back champion in almost 20 years. Klingen, my gosh, Klingen is now an all-time Huskies, one of the all-time leading scorers. He'll go on to the NBA and hopefully have a decent career. That's Donovan Klingen, their center, who honestly, you look at the box score, Zach Edey, the 7'4" center for the Purdue Boilermakers, the Naismith Player of the Year. You look at the box score, 37 points and 10 rebounds. You go, whoa, wow, Zach Edey, what a night. It didn't play like that when you watched the game. Yeah, it didn't seem like Zach Edey was all over the place. It actually felt like he was shooting more often than he should. The whole offense was trying to go through Zach Edey, which is usually when they're at their best. But it just seems stale. It seemed stagnant. They only made 1 3-point field goal the whole night.
Wow,
exactly.
Really?
And when you're playing a game like Purdue's offense where they're going to pass it to Zach Edey in the block, they're going to double team Zach Edey. He's going to pass it. They're going to kick it to the corner. That 3-pointer is going to be open. You have to make a few of those. They only made 1. So they just didn't no other help around Zach Edey. He was taking a bunch of shots. So you just go on UConn's accomplishments here. They match UNC in titles. They've now passed Duke and Indiana.
Wow.
They're one of the
top 5 programs in NCAA basketball. There's no ifs and buts about it. And that's only if you're counting men's. If you're counting basketball programs, they're number one. They're number one. The women's team is in the Final Four, the championship every year.
Yeah.
They have the best coach in women's basketball in Gino. UConn is the school. Maybe the second best coach now. Dawn Staley at South Carolina is on a heater. She just went undefeated. I'll give her the title. But either way, UConn, I think we're watching the best college basketball dynasty in the past 30 years.
All right. Well, I hesitate to ask this because I think I know the answer, but how did the brackets go? Our little bracket.
Speaking of champions.
All right, round of applause, Mr. Weber, who I had to just pry and proud to do it. He finally does it. I did. And let's give him
Thank you.
Yes, some golf claps.
Too much.
Well, it's all that, all that film studying that you did, Weber, throughout the season. That's really what it is.
It's like I always say, you put in the work, you put in the sweat. Great things will happen. Just wags all the way down through the bracket. I didn't even, I think I told you, Mac, after I finally gave in and started to fill out the bracket, I was confused because I thought I was done. And then there was another bracket that I had to fill out.
You'd
I was
only
like,
done half.
oh, yeah, I'd only done one half of the bracket. But just dumb luck.
You only had one side done. Yeah. Weber takes first place. I'll go second. Jay Harper in third, and Brian Wilson there in fourth place.
What? I wasn't at the bottom?
You weren't at the bottom because you had UConn winning it.
You picked UConn. That's what saved you.
That jumped you up above Murphy and Pamela there. They take the last place spots.
If I beat Murphy and Pamela Furr, then I feel like I've accomplished something.
That's a win.
Because literally, I was pulled out the quarter and I was flipping the quarter. That's if I didn't have some feel for it or some sense of it. I know enough about basketball to know the big teams, but I don't know it. I don't know when you get off in sort of these some of these lesser known teams.
Oh yeah,
you got two of them up. I don't know who's best. I got no idea. So I'd flip a coin.
Yeah.
And so it was heads or tails. Yeah, and that's how I came in fourth. Oh, hello. I've told Cabana Wife not to call
Is your
me
bookie
here.
calling?
Yeah.
This is the bookie.
I can't believe I came in fourth. I cannot believe.
No, seriously. Way to go. Again, that film study really paid off for you, Brian.
Yeah.
You and Weber first and fourth. Me not even coming in first this time. So that's okay. But sticking really quick before we get out of here, really quick with college basketball news. The John Calipari leaving Kentucky headline did become official today. He is parting ways with Kentucky. Kentucky will not have to pay Calipari that $35 million buyout because Calipari's the one that is parting ways. He left, which is...
Where do you think he'll end up?
I think he's got all signs point to Arkansas. The Razorbacks are going to attain John Calipari. It looks like the booster money came in big there. Part of that, Jerry Jones forking up some cash to go to Calipari there. Yes.
How about that?
So,
all right.
That's the news.
All right. Thank you so much, Mel. And time for the real news now. Take the sports hat off, put the news hat on. It's news time at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 61 degrees in Nashville, and it could get a little cooler here tonight as showers and storms are expected. Latest traffic report and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that a date has been set for his forces to go into Rafah, even as the U.S. warns against that and urges more cooperation to protect civilians. U.S. officials say they aren't aware of the date, but are still having active conversations about alternate plans to fight Hamas in that area of Gaza. Karen Travers has the latest from the White House on progress of aid getting into Gaza.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Israel needs to follow through with action that is, quote, specific, concrete, and measurable to allow more humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
If you look at the last 2 days, there's been a substantial increase in the amount of aid going into Gaza. That's good. It is not good enough.
Sullivan said the administration welcomes the opportunity for more aid trucks to move in and then around Gaza to get food, water, medicine, and essentials to where it's needed most.
3 colleges in Tennessee that'll have to ban transgender students from competing in women's sports. News Channel 5 says Fisk, Cumberland University in Lebanon, and UT Southern in Pulaski are part of the NAIA, which voted unanimously yesterday to adopt the policy. The president of the NAIA says the reason for the policy is to create fairness and competition. And the company that makes the first ever daily birth control drug called O-Pill and the Women's National Basketball Association joining forces to build confidence, strength, and health equity. Michelle Franzen
has more on the game-changing collaboration.
Weeks after the FDA-approved O-pill became available to buy over the counter without a prescription, Perrigo, the company that makes the daily birth control pill, and the WNBA are teaming up to expand contraception accessibility. Both organizations say the multi-year partnership will help address issues important to players, including access to reproductive health care, especially within communities of color. The joint effort tips off in Brooklyn at the 2024 WNBA Draft, April 15th.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. Also a traffic report. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
You know, of the things that I have in my garage, the thing that I love most perhaps is my Cub Cadet zero turn mower. It is a wonderful, wonderfully built, very tough piece of equipment that I use to maintain the 2 acres that I have here in bucolic Watertown. And I got it at D.T. McCall and Sons. And so, listen, I highly recommend this Cub Cadet, but they've got a whole bunch of different kind of mowers that will be on sale. The big sale is going to be up in Carthage on Saturday, April 20th, a huge mower sale. So if you're out there now and you feel like, man, this mower, it's on the last leg, or you want to upgrade your mower, and maybe you want to get you a big zero turn, whatever it is that you need, there are going to be some big savings to be had at DT McCall's. Again, the Carthage sale will be on Saturday, April 20th, and it's going to be a big deal. Also, huge discounts across the entire store, things like appliances, a Samsung robot vacuum, a mini fridge, all kinds of, listen, here's the thing. At DT McCall's, whatever it is you need for your house, you're probably going to find it at DT McCall's. It's a good company. They've been around and doing business in this area for more than 100 years, and they have a reputation for treating you right. So look, if you need a mower or you need anything else, just go to DT McCall's. That's dtmccalls.com for more details.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
537 Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this 9th day of April. It is gloomy. It is still a little rainy out there. So just get home safely. We'll try to get you some news and information to keep you informed about what's going on in the world around you while you're doing that. And you can pay attention to us, and we'll, keep you entertained. And the next thing you know, you're going to be home. It happens quick. Man, I tell you what, it was yesterday when I was driving home from the Eclipse, and the traffic at times was just brutal. I mean, I did pretty well there for a while, but then I ran into just the wall. There were some stories out there that said that there were 1 million people who were trying to get to either Paducah or Henderson, Kentucky. 1 million people. And I ran into almost every one of the 1 million on the way back. So it was a reminder how good it can be to be able to tune in. Now, I was quite a ways out, but as I got closer and closer, that powerhouse 100,000-watt signal of WTN came booming through, and I was able to listen to the show. And you know what? Probably the last hour and 25 minutes or 30 minutes of my drive, I could pick up the radio station just fine. And I can't believe how quickly that time passed. See, that's the wonderful thing about radio is you start paying attention to us knuckleheads, and the next thing you know, you're home. And you might have learned a little something along the way. It's a good use of your time. It really is. And by the way, I was driving along on the way up, and as you know, I have a vanity plate on my truck.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And people, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you see me, you'll know it's me.
Absolutely will.
You'll know it's me. You'll say, "Oh, there's that Brian Wilson. I know who that is." But I was driving along, and I can't believe the number of people while I was driving over who would pull up alongside and honk and wave. Hey,
we're going up there too, huh?
They're going to the Eclipse as well.
Yep.
I mean, it was fun to watch families and all of that. I mean, again, I ended up in Vincennes. I'd never been to Vincennes, Indiana in my life, and I doubt I'll ever have reason to go back. But I had some good Mexican food. I talked them into putting my margarita into a styrofoam cup so I could carry the results with me.
That's almost enough reason to go back right there.
I mean, to tell you right there, I thought, now that's cool. Now, I promised I would not say who they were, but they were nice enough to do that for me. And then, met some lovely people over there. It was a good experience. But there are tons and tons of families that were there, and you wouldn't believe the number of people I ran into. I came in from Oregon. I came in from California. I wanted to be right here. So of all the places, I mean, Vincennes was literally just a hair off the dead center line. And I really had anticipated just going to Henderson and calling it a day. But I got there so early, I thought, I could do 50 more miles. That's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And in 50 more miles, I'll be right in the center. And the closer you were to the center, the more totality that you got.
If you're going to do it right.
If you're going to do it. And I thought, 50 miles is worth an extra 2 minutes of totality, I suppose. So, I mean, a lot of people say, Wilson, why in the world would you waste a whole day of your life? You've never been through one. I mean, it really is. And as I said yesterday on the show, the difference between 95% and 100% is like the difference between chicken salad and chicken poop. Because, I mean, really, 100% is the chicken salad experience. And everything, I mean, as soon as the sun starts to break even 2, 3, 4%, and the moon starts to move away, it immediately brightens up. And you say, well, it didn't take much to sort of, make it look like daylight here. I was shocked by that. I'd forgotten since the last one I went to that as soon as it starts to break out, the sun starts to break out from behind the moon, it looks like daylight, even if you're only at 5 or 6 or 7%.
Yeah, because it never got dark here yesterday.
I know. And so, and I heard that from Cabana Wife. What was really strange, Cabana Wife did not go with me on the trip because she had some other commitments she had to honor. And so she stayed here.
It was the music, wasn't it? She just wasn't having it. She just didn't want to listen to your music. She couldn't take it.
I asked her, I said, are you not going because I'm not going to listen to AC/DC? She said, no, that's not it at all. She has, I will say she had some commitments later this week that she felt like she needed to prepare for. So, I understood, but I wasn't going to stop me from not going. But anyway, I went on, and but she was curious as to what it would be like here. I left her a pair of the glasses, and so she went out and she said, the clouds you couldn't really see.
Yeah.
But the bulldog was picking something up. Grogu was figuring out that something was going on.
She could sense it, I guess. Huh?
And weird, even before it even got to 50% totality, she just jumped up and started barking and ran outside and just ran around like she was on alert. It just, you could tell she was uneasy about something, but really you couldn't really identify like what it was. And she just knew something wasn't right. And then when it got, almost to 95%, it still was pretty bright outside. She, again, very unsettled, I'm told.
It's like just a sixth sense, I guess.
Just a pacing back and forth that something wasn't right, but she couldn't quite figure out what it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I wonder, we heard so many stories about people are going to be at zoos watching the animals. I never did hear how that worked out.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. We got some other stuff I want to talk about. The Arizona Supreme Court, now this ruling is on hold for 14 days. And voters will likely have a chance to weigh in, but they have basically, the Supreme Court has said that an 1864 law in Arizona can stand, and it makes abortion a felony punishable by 2 to 5 years in prison for anyone who performs one or helps a woman obtain one. Again, this law goes back to 1864. The law, which was codified in 1901 and again in 1913, outlaws abortion from the moment of conception, but includes an exception to save the woman's life. It's a Civil War-era law enacted a half-century before Arizona even gained statehood. It was never repealed, and an appellate court ruled last year that it could remain on the books as long as it was harmonized with the 2022 law, leading to a substantial confusion in Arizona regarding exactly when a pregnancy abortion was outlawed. So they passed that. Now, I don't know exactly how it's all going to play out. The Supreme Court of Arizona said it would put the decision on hold for 14 days, writing that it could send the case back to a lower court so that court could consider additional constitutional challenges that haven't yet been cleared up. So it sounds like it's on shaky ground, or it may be on shaky ground, but one way or the other, this has happened. And you know what the response by the Democrats was? To immediately capitalize on it. Listen to this. Kamala Harris to head to Arizona just days after a court upholds a harsh anti-abortion law. Former President Donald Trump announced yesterday that he would support, or over the weekend, I guess it was, support state-based decisions on abortion laws on Monday. And then just amazingly, following the Arizona court decision, announcement that Harris will go there. Now, she's leading the White House portfolio on reproductive rights. And so she has been attacking Trump and now will travel immediately to try to make hay over this Arizona law. Listen, this is the one issue they have that they feel like they can gain some traction with. You know how I feel about the issue. I believe basically that life does begin at conception. I don't know how in the world anybody can make a decision about when that moment is. When is sentience? When does that happen? I don't know. But one thing I do know is that I believe that it's wrong to do abortion, and I believe that the Supreme Court, in handing it back to the states, was the perfect solution. And that's what Donald Trump said yesterday. He said that it needs to be where it is right now with the states. Individual states can make a decision, and I think that's right. I mean, to say that abortion has been outlawed is not accurate. It has in some places. In some places, it is still allowed under certain conditions, and some places it's allowed with no conditions. And I think that's the best solution you could have right now. Let this be a state issue. And Donald Trump said basically, I'm fine with that. And by making this statement, he was basically saying that he does not want to push for a 15-week ban or any kind of ban on a federal level. A lot of efforts will be made by Democrats to try to codify Roe v. Wade, and that's why this election is so important for our side of the equation. If they get the White House, the House, and the Senate, they will codify Roe v. Wade. That will happen. So there's a lot at stake for our side of the equation in this coming election. We don't want them to, when I say codify, that means taking a bill, taking a measure and making it law. So Roe v. Wade, which was a Supreme Court ruling, would be made law if the Democrats control all three bodies, the White House, the House, and the Senate. Donald Trump, of course, was trying to walk a tightrope here because while he may have very strong feelings against abortion, he understands that it's going to be a real issue in this election. And I think he found the right way out of this by saying, we've done well in this Roe v. Wade decision, the Dobbs decision that says it should be handled by the states and not by the federal government. And so what I'm reading here is that a lot of people think that it took the issue of abortion out of the equation for Democrats because they can no longer say, because he's on record, very, very clearly on record now saying what he believes. They can't say that if Donald Trump is elected, then, that we will never be able to have any abortions in America because they will push to outlaw abortion. Donald Trump has said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. My position will be, if elected president of the United States, that it remains an issue for the states to decide. Takes it off the counter as an issue that Democrats can use effectively. And again, here's the story that gives you sort of a sense of what Trump said, in case you missed it. Trump says abortion is up to the states and declines to endorse a national limit. His announcement will disappoint anti-abortion groups after his campaign floated at one point the possibility of a 15-week ban earlier this year. The announcement highlights Trump's recognition that abortion has dogged Republicans on the campaign trail since the fall of Roe v. Wade nearly 2 years ago, and his primary goal of winning the 2024 election. He has chided other Republicans for speaking inaccurately on abortion, intimating that severe restrictions have cost the GOP winnable elections. On Sunday night and again Monday, he urged people to follow their heart or their religion, but encouraged voters to remember the stakes. You must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently and very sadly a nation in decline. Now, his comments drew a swift rebuke from one of the nation's leading anti-abortion rights group who had urged Trump to endorse a 15-week federal law. We're disappointed in President Trump's position, she said, but I think Trump has done the right thing. Look, there's a lot at stake here. And is it for people who believe in the right to life, is it a perfect decision by Donald Trump to take this action and say, stay with Dobbs, let the states decide, let that be the standard, keep the federal government out of it? I think it's as good a solution as you are going to find, and there are no perfect solutions. There are no perfect solutions. If you insist that abortion be completely outlawed, then Republicans, I'm afraid, will lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency. That's just the way it is. So, again, difficult to say on such an important issue that we have found some middle ground here, because for a lot of people there is no middle ground, and I understand that and I respect that. But Donald Trump has decided that he will take this and let Dobbs be where it stands. And that way it takes it off the table as an issue that can be used against Republicans in the coming election. Because he said, I won't pass that bill if it comes to me. So he has effectively neutered the Democrats and their the one big issue they had, and all the other issues fall in the direction of Donald Trump. Things like, immigration, inflation, the national debt, the economy. All those things are things which Republicans and Donald Trump will do very well on in the polling. And the one issue that could have been a problem for him, I think Donald Trump has effectively taken off the table. And again, I do understand how some people can have a different opinion, but for my money, I think that it's the best of all the solutions that are available. This is the best one, not a perfect one, but the best one that he could have taken. 52 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, the folks, it's getting warmer. It will be warmer in a few days, and it's the grilling season. If you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of those same flavors right at home, fresh on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisles, places like Walmart and Kroger, and look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand of spices. You'll likely see fruit tea that it's one of his famous things at the restaurant at your local grocery, along with salad dressings and Johnny Fleeman's steak marinades. Johnny Fleeman's proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of the other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can also use his marinade to enhance almost any dish, your favorite rice recipe, fresh vegetables, just about anything. If your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. And for more information, go to johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want somebody else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legends Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare, where it's really, they are the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your healthcare is delivered without the red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Smart Care plans make it even more affordable. Starting at only $69 a month, you get free office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. Now, Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of a condition, not just the symptoms, using a comprehensive functional approach. And by usually seeing you the same or the next day, you're treated at your convenience. Wouldn't that be nice? Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. They are located on Main Street in Franklin, 615-599-6868. That's 599-6868 to set up an appointment.
.601, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 61 degrees right now in Nashville. Got some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast tonight as well as the rest of this week. Traffic and a weather forecast 5 minutes away. Possible legislation in Tennessee. The Tennessee Senate passed a bill that would arm teachers with concealed guns in schools. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik is outside the Tennessee Senate chambers.
We saw dozens of people outside the Senate chambers here begging and pleading lawmakers not to pass this bill. They did end up passing the piece of legislation in the end, which caused some people to almost charge at the Senate doors trying to get in. Now, this is what happened when Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally told people in the gallery to leave. It came after multiple outbursts, but the one that sent them away was after Democratic Senator Ramesh Akbari asked the bill's sponsor, Senator Paul Bailey, if parents would know which staff members are carrying concealed guns. He responded saying they wouldn't, and the gallery erupted.
This bill still needs to pass the House before it becomes law. The bill passed in the Senate with 26 votes for and 5 votes against. Crime here in the Volunteer State. A man and woman were both killed in a shooting last night that happened in downtown Clarksville. Officials reported to a home on the 600 block of Martin Street and found 30-year-old Savannah Lumpkin and 26-year-old Glenn Nicholson deceased at the scene. That incident now being investigated. Anyone with information asked to call Crime Stoppers. Weapons intercepted by the U.S. on their way to Yemen, now headed instead to Ukraine. Dave Packer.
U.S. officials say that a large cache of weapons and ammunition seized en route from Iran to Yemen by U.S. Central Command and partners has now been transferred to Ukrainian armed forces. The weapons confiscated at sea over the last 3 years include more than 5,000 AK-47 sniper rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and more than 500,000 rounds of ammunition. The transfer provides emergency military aid for Ukraine, with funding stalled in Congress.
And which song set the mood for yesterday's eclipse? Jason Nathanson tuned in.
There was a lot of love for Bonnie Tyler. Spotify says her 1983 power ballad Total Eclipse of the Heart was the top song added to user playlists, but she wasn't alone.
Well, it's a marvelous night for a moon dance.
Van Morrison's Moon Dance saw the biggest percentage increase in streams, spiking 2,300%, followed by the Beatles.
Here comes the sun.
And in Cities in the Path of Totality, Pink Floyd's Eclipse saw the biggest increase, spiking over 5,000% in Cleveland.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
Good evening, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 9th of April. Let's get you home. The day is almost over. We got one more hour to go before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. And he's been on fire. Have you been listening to him lately? I listened to him a little bit last night on the way home, and I'm telling you, he was wound up. Always good stuff from Mark Levin. I thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about some local issues that are facing the city of Nashville and some local news from around the area that sort of caught my eye. From the Tennessee Star comes a story about Mayor Freddie O'Connell of Nashville. It says that he will unveil his full plans for the future of transit in Nashville on April 19th, a little later this month, about 10 days from now, at the Southeast Community Center in Antioch. Now, what do we know about Mayor Freddie O'Connell's plans to do something about transportation? Well, one thing we know is that he's going to have to go to the people of Nashville and ask them for permission to raise the sales tax by, I think it's half a penny. Half a penny, that's right. He wants to do that because he feels like we need to, well, I don't know what his plan is. And this is what we know. 38 miles of around-the-clock bus operations. Okay, 38 miles of that, including some dedicated bus lanes, I believe they've talked about. There will be 86 miles of new sidewalks. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't understand why we're spending that much money on sidewalks. If you've been in a neighborhood and you don't have a sidewalk by now, then why do you now need one? But apparently 86 miles, that's a lot of sidewalks. Of sidewalks, and he thinks it's a big deal. I don't know, maybe I don't understand it. But at this point, I think, why do we need the sidewalks? But that's part of the plan. And then 600 new traffic signals. Now, from what I know about all three of these plans and what I know about having covered, other jurisdictions when they upgrade their transportation and their traffic lights. I like the idea of new traffic lights, especially there's new technology out there where they're synced up a lot better, that they're smart, they're intelligent traffic lights are not just plain old everyday traffic lights that are on a timer, means you got to sit there whether there's traffic or not. These things are apparently got some smarts to them. They're smart traffic signals, and it should improve the flow of traffic in Nashville proper. I don't have a real problem with that. I think that most of the communities I know that have done that are happy that they have done that. But again, I guess the part I have a problem with is buses. I don't know why everybody thinks buses are the answer, because every time I look around town when I'm driving around town, tell me if I'm wrong. If you have a different opinion, then fine. But I see an awful lot of empty buses. So why do we need more buses if the ones we have are largely empty? I don't know. I just think that especially when you start talking about dedicated lanes for buses, I starts to send up a bunch of questions. I need more information. Are you saying you're going to build new roadway for the buses? I don't think that's what he means. I think what he means, and again, maybe we'll find out on the 19th, I think what he means is we're going to take existing roadways and we're going to make them exclusive for the use of buses. And if you do that, I'm not sure that solves a problem. I think it creates a lot of problems. I mean, people need to get into Nashville and out of Nashville. They need to get, and they need to be able to do it reliably, and they don't need heavier traffic. But if you take away traffic lanes for buses, but people, I mean, if you live in a place where the buses don't go, you still got to get to work, right? You still got to get to Nashville if that's where you work. And you're going to have to drive in. The same number of people who are driving in now probably have to drive in then. I don't know. I'm willing to hear what his idea is, but I'm just, initially, I've got a lot of concern and a lot of questions about the bus thing. How's that going to be implemented? What exactly is your plan? Nashville Tea Party founder Ben Cunningham has branded the plan, at least what we know about it so far, as a green doggle, and warned in March that a half-cent sales tax expected to fund the transit plan would just be a small down payment on the eventual cost. So if O'Connell is successful in getting the transit referendum approved, the top sales tax paid in Nashville consumers would be 10.25%, 10.25%. I got so many questions. So many questions because, I mean, how much of this is going to be federal grants? How much of this is going to be borne by the taxpayers of Nashville? And if you get into the project and you start to run out of money, then what happens? I mean, almost always these things end up costing more than you think they're going to cost. Look, I'm not saying right now, based on what we know, the problem is we don't know enough. I have real concerns about how this money is going to be spent and whether it really will solve the problems of Nashville transportation. I believe, by and large, that transportation issues are not something that one jurisdiction on its own can solve. I believe it takes a regional approach, and I don't see a mechanism whereby that could happen. I think we need to have, all of the counties that surround Nashville involved in a transit plan. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. I know that in the last time they put up a traffic referendum, it went down in flames. So we'll watch and see April 19th. I'll reserve my final judgment until I see exactly what it is. But I got to tell you, if it's just that the solution is buses and dedicated bus lanes that take away traffic lanes, I got a real problem with that. And I think most people who try to drive into Nashville would have that same problem. Saw this story, and I couldn't believe it. Now, Chris, you assure me that this is possible. Let me just, from Mount Juliet, they have somebody who went into the Academy Sports Store there and stole 13 baseball bats. 13 baseball bats. And then they say that collectively those bats were worth $6,000.
Yeah.
So I just did. I double checked myself because I am about numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at. I divided 13, 6,000 by 13. I come at $500 a bat.
That's not out of the realm of possible. Yeah.
Well, I thought that seemed really high to me, but then I asked the internet that question, and it says a bat can cost you at least $60. A really good bat will cost you $100 to $200, and if it's a really nice wooden bat, it can cost you $500.
Yep, and I'm looking right now on the Academy website, and they have several bats that are 500 and up. Like this is the most expensive one that they have is a Marucci composite bat, $519.
Now, I have to say I'm ignorant about this. You can't use an aluminum bat in Major League Baseball, right?
No, it's strictly wooden in
that's
Major
right.
League, but college and high school and lower, obviously they can use the aluminums, and apparently they use composite bats now.
Like carbon fiber bats or something like that?
I'm trying to see. I don't know what the material is.
But all I know is that I never, when I was playing, baseball as a kid, I never imagined that piece of wood that I'd be swinging and missing a lot would be worth so much money.
Yeah.
Anyway, they say they're looking for suspects, and they have actually some pictures from the security cameras. First subject described as white, female with dark hair, wearing a white Nike shirt and dark colored pants, pushing a baby stroller with a light colored item covering the hood portion. Second suspect is white, male with dark hair, wearing a red, white, blue, black striped shirt and dark pants. Well, that could be just about anybody, I guess. But they say this male suspect was pushing an Academy shopping cart with two small children inside. But anyway, they got away with $6,000 worth of bat. I don't know. They put them in the baby buggy. Is that what they did? I don't know. That's quite a thing. $6,000 worth of bats. My goodness.
And the thing about it is that I remember this I didn't play baseball as a kid growing up, but I had a lot of friends that did, and it was always a big deal to get a new bat every season. And apparently the bats are only good for so many swings, and then they kind of lose their jump or whatever it is. I don't know if this was real or if it was just in their imagination, but it was a yearly thing. Every year you had to get a brand new bat.
Really?
Yeah. So just imagine. I mean, families ponying up for $500 bats every year.
Wow. I had no idea. No idea. Well, you learn something every day. See now, I talk about how when you're driving home, you're going to learn something. I learned something today. I had no idea that bats cost that much. There was a protest up on in the state legislature this afternoon in the Senate, a bunch of moms weren't very happy because they didn't like a bill that was being considered. And the measure passed, according to WSMV. The Tennessee Senate passed the bill that would arm teachers potentially with concealed guns in schools. It passed 26-5, party line vote. And the moms weren't liking it too much. During the hearing, there were dozens of moms in the gallery who were standing outside the Senate with signs opposing the bill in the gallery and were removed, I think politely, from what I could tell, by the state patrol, which, provides security down at the Capitol. And now it's a little too simple to say that anybody who wants to have a concealed carry can have one. That's not what this bill calls for at all. It would arm school staff members upon completing training, undergoing a background check, and a psychological evaluation. There's more to it even than that, in that you would have to get permission from the superintendent and the principal. You would have to go through and let the chief of police or the sheriff, whoever is responsible for security in your particular jurisdiction, they would have to be brought in and know about it. There's a whole bunch. You got to go through 80 hours of training every year. 80 hours, which is a lot of training. So that's what it would require. The measure did pass the Senate. The measure passed, as I understand it, the House last year, was put on the desk and placed on hold. And so they have to then take it off hold, or it got its way to the desk, to put it that way, and it's on hold, and now they have to pass it in the House. Now, I did some checking with people in the state legislature who are in a position to know that, and they say that, yes, it would have to pass the House again, or pass the House maybe for the first time. I'm not clear on that. One way or the other, it's got to pass the House. And the problem is that the schedule in the House of Representatives is jammed, and there's not that much time left in this legislative session. So the question is, how do you squeeze that in? And if you do, what else gets bumped? So it's unclear to me whether this is going to pass, because it's not clear to me that it can get through the House. It's also not clear to me, if it were to pass the House and Senate, exactly what the governor would do with it. But I think he probably would sign it, but I don't know. That's something we'd have to ask him. In the meantime, it has some moms upset. The Democrats don't like it. I think it's not a bad idea. I think, though, in the grand scheme of things, have they placed so many hoops, so many things you got to go through in order to be able to do, a concealed carry inside the classroom. By the way, if you were a concealed carry, if you were carrying concealed inside the classroom after going through all of these hoops, the students wouldn't know, and the parents wouldn't know. Only the principal and the police chief or the sheriff would know, and you would have to have a memorandum of understanding with, I guess, the superintendent of schools would know. But the average person attending that school would ostensibly not know that there was a teacher who was carrying concealed. So I don't know if it's going to happen. It just seems like to me, 80 hours of instruction and all of this stuff that you have to go through, so many hoops. I don't know many people who would go through all the trouble, honestly. Now, I mean, when you talk about 80 hours of instruction, a psychological evaluation, you got to get permission from, about 4 or 5 different people, and you got to undergo a background check. At what point do you say, I'm not sure it's worth all the trouble? So I don't know if it will actually make a difference or not, but I do at least theoretically like the idea of having somebody in the school who can respond, given the fact that when seconds count, the police are minutes away. And so much damage can be done in the first few minutes. There are some 500 schools that don't have an SRO, as I understand it, in the state of Tennessee. So maybe an option for them. 21 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. One of the things I love most about Genesis Diamonds is the laid-back feel, the vibe, the relaxed feeling you get when you walk in. There are no commissioned salespeople at Genesis ever. There's never going to be an ounce of pressure or intimidation. If you are a diamond expert or if you don't know anything about diamonds, they will make you feel at home and at ease. And you can see a wide array of GIA-certified diamonds, all in your price range, every shape. Or if you're looking at lab-grown diamonds, Genesis has those at prices way below what others sell them for. And when it comes to the ring, here's the good news. Genesis has the ring designers that other stores just can't even get. All the top brands from trusted, renowned designers like Tacori and Baraggio. And not only that, free service for life on any purchase, designer jewelry that you can't find at other stores, a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee, and an incredible selection of pristine luxury pre-owned Rolexes as well. You really should check them out. This is Nashville's premier jeweler. 2 locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It's 26 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. A bit of local news, and a man that, you feel like you know him even if you've never met him, has passed away from the scene here in Nashville. Longtime Nashville lawyer Bart Durham has passed at the age of 89. He was the founder of the personal injury law firm Bart Durham Injury Law. He moved to the city in 1969. And he started the firm in 1975. I looked it up just to make sure, and my memory was correct. It was about 1977 when the Supreme Court handed down a decision that allowed basically lawyers to advertise. it used to be a time in America where lawyers could not advertise. But in 1977, a ruling by the Supreme Court, Bates versus the State Bar of Arizona, basically struck down prohibitions against advertising by attorneys. And I would imagine it was probably about then that Bart Durham started to advertise, because he's been on the airwaves in this area with his commercials for a very, very, very long time. Sometimes appearing with his son Blair. I noticed recently Blair was doing the commercials, and it was really, you didn't see Bart much anymore, but he passed away, according to his son. Here's a statement from his son, Blair Durham. It's with deep sorrow and a burdened heart that I share the news of the passing of my father, Bart Durham, a legendary figure in the local legal community and a beloved patriarch to our family. Beyond being the founding force and public face of Bart Durham injury law, he was, at his core, a dedicated husband, father, and grandfather. His tireless commitment to justice, unparalleled work ethic, and boundless generosity have left an enduring impact on our family, our firm, and the countless lives he touched. You actually pulled up an old ad you found, Chris, where he talked about his past and his history, and here's a little bit of that.
I was sworn in as a lawyer in 1963. That's over 50 years ago. And I've been working as a lawyer every day since then. When I got out of law school, I practiced with my father. About a year later, he died of a sudden heart attack. I got a job as Assistant U.S. District Attorney in Memphis. 3 years as Assistant U.S. Attorney, 8 years as Assistant Attorney General, and I went into private practice. What's important at Bart Durham Injury Law is to get the job done. And what sets us apart from others, if anything, is that we have systems that work.
Have systems that work. Well, he's been doing it a very long time. His son carries on his legacy there at the law firm. But again, if you grew up in the Nashville area, you feel like you know this guy. I mean, all the commercials, and one where he brought a sack lunch to somebody. I don't know what we never did figure out what that one's all about.
That one sticks out in my memory for sure.
Yeah. Hey, here's a sack lunch. I brought you some food. Yeah. I'm Bart Durham. I'll handle your case and I'll feed you. I mean, that's a great thing right there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I rest in peace, Bart Durham, who has passed at the age of 89, survived by his wife, Cindy, by his children, and will be remembered, I think, for a long, long time by anybody who's lived in Nashville for a time. It's 6:30 now, time for the news. You know, many of you have lived here for a long time. You know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for European car repairs now for some 24 years. That's right, 24 years. And we've watched them grow over that time. I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, the folks at Eurofix are now proud to announce a new location for Eurofix in Mount Juliet on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now, of course, Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour. We got the last few minutes of the drive for this Tuesday, and got just a few more minutes before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. I think that it's funny to look at Democrats and how crazy some of the things they say are sometimes. And I've got some really good examples of people who just seem to. I look. It wasn't hard to find these. They all just sort of jumped at me today. The first one is Pete Buttigieg, our Secretary of Transportation, crack guy. He's on MSNBC. And the first thing he does is he talks about how, well, the biased media, and he's talking about in his world, he's talking about Fox News and some of the others. But really, it's funny that he was actually doing this interview on MSNBC, which could also be called biased news if you want to set that standard. They certainly provide news at a slant. But he's actually telling this story. Talk about a guy who's out of touch. Now, to lay the background here, in Washington, D.C. right now, they're having horrific crime problems. They tried to liberalize the police department and policing in the city, and it failed horribly. They tried to liberalize and not to take people to jail. It failed. It failed miserably. They stopped prosecuting cases. They started working for alternatives to prosecution, and it just a miserable mess. And crime has gotten way out of control. I talked to my friends in D.C., and they say it's a different kind of place right now. Pete Buttigieg was asked about that. He said, I don't know that that's true. After all, I live in the city. Listen to this.
But the simple facts and the simple reality are right here staring us in the face, including the fact that I can safely walk my dog to the Capitol today in a way that you couldn't do when we all got here.
Now, let's think for a moment. What does Pete Buttigieg have that you and I don't have? Well, one thing he has is an armed security team. He's a Secretary of Transportation, and he's got his own details. He's got people that drive him everywhere he goes. And if he wants to walk, they walk with him. If he, whatever it is, he's got a security team around him, and they're armed. How easy it is for him to walk his dog to Capitol Hill without any fear, knowing that there's a guy packing right behind him. I mean, and by the way, if you live in D.C., it's very hard to get a concealed carry permit, almost impossible. The laws are still very strict there in D.C. about that kind of thing. So here's a guy, hey, I don't know what the problem is. I can walk my dog all the way to Capitol Hill, no problem whatsoever. Sure, if there's a guy packing heat right behind you. Anyway, it's just, again, how they're out of touch. The president of the United States is defying SCOTUS and trying to go forward with this attempt to buy a bunch of votes by paying off student loan debt. Now, the Supreme Court has already said that he can't do that. But he's doing workarounds. He's proud of the fact that he's flaunting and defying the Supreme Court, and he said so just the other day.
Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us.
Well, hold on a minute. Yeah, we sued you because you're not supposed to be able to do that. You don't get to unilaterally decide you're going to cancel debt without going through Congress. Even Nancy Pelosi believed at one point, she believed that was the case. So, yeah, there were some lawsuits. What he's trying to do is vilify the Republicans for trying to make the president obey the law.
And the Supreme Court blocked us.
Yep, they did.
But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives paths to reduce student debt payments.
Yeah, and whether or not those are going to hold up is a whole different question, because now there are 7 states that have filed lawsuit, and maybe more in the days ahead, against the Biden administration to stop them from doing this. The problem is he's going to do it because he thinks he has the right to do it, and then by the time it makes its way to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court has a chance to weigh in, it's already done. The letter's already gone out. The debt has already been forgiven. How do you claw that money back? You can't. And he knows that. To me, it seems like the Biden administration is trying to play a game here where they don't care what the law says. They don't care what is constitutionally correct. They don't care about the Constitution and whether or not he has the constitutional authority to do this. He's just going to do it. And if they say later that it was unconstitutional, oh, well, my bad. But the money's already gone. Irritating. Let's see. I'm missing one here. What was it? Oh yeah. Here it is. Sheila Jackson Lee. This is classic stuff. This is as good as it gets. Sheila Jackson Lee, member of Congress from Texas. She's giving up, like it seems like a speech to a bunch of graduating seniors somewhere, and she starts talking about the moon. And the things she says about the moon. Well, I don't know how to describe it. I'll just let you hear it, okay?
You have the energy of the moon at night, and sometimes you've heard the word full moon.
Yeah, I think we've all heard the term full moon, but what is it?
Sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle.
Really? I wouldn't have known that had you not told me. A full moon is a full circle. Okay, good to know. But then listen to this. This is where it gets really bizarre.
Which is made up mostly of gases.
The moon is made up of gases. Now, we have planets that are gaseous planets, but the moon is not made up of gases at all. How would you land a lunar lander on gas. No, it's rock and it's dirt and it's minerals and all kinds of stuff. It's solid. It's not a gas.
Which is made up mostly of gases. And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that?
I have no idea what the hell she's talking about. And she doesn't either, apparently. I mean, that's unbelievable. The moon is not made of cheese. It's made of gases.
Which is made up mostly of gases.
Mostly of gases. Oh my gosh. And then here's Sunny Hostin, who is one of those ladies on The View. You know, we watch The View so you don't have to watch The View. Sunny Hostin apparently is completely freaked out and believes that all of the things that have been happening lately are just proof that climate change exists.
I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming. I'm out. I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming. Cicadas.
This is one time where I actually do appreciate Whoopi Goldberg. She has to correct.
For the first time in like
no,
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different times.
Two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad.
But for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists, or something is returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground. It can't. It happens, and the eclipse. They've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
All right. I mean, yes, we've been how many weeks have we been talking about the coming eclipse? We can predict eclipses. We have that ability. So she thinks that, the fact that there was an earthquake, if you want to call it that, I mean, it really was just sort of, it felt like a big truck passed in front of your building. It really wasn't much of an earthquake. But they got the earthquake, and then you have the solar eclipse and cicadas. You say cicada, I say cicada. Apparently, she did not know that cicadas, emerge every 17 years. Well, there are annual. Whoopi was right. There are annual cicadas. Now that you got me saying it. I'll be saying it wrong the rest of the day. There are annual cicadas, and then there are 17-year cicadas. But we know that this was going to happen. And regardless, all those three things completely unconnected to the fact that climate change, she believes, exists. Just unbelievable. This is what happens when uninformed people get on television. And this is, sadly, this is not even close to being the only time that the ladies on The View have been woefully uninformed. So there you have that. And then I got this one. This is Kamala Harris. She's on a talk show, and apparently it comes up whether, a whole discussion. I don't know. They're trying to have a moment of levity, I suppose. And these two ladies are asking her about how do you feel about people who take off their shoes on an airplane. Now, when's the last time Kamala Harris was on a commercial flight? It's been a long time, but she was very quick to weigh in on it.
Had it completely. It's terrible. Awful. And then if they take their shoes off and then cross their legs so that their foot is just dangling right in front of the aisle. And especially if they're sockless.
The sockless people in an airport, it's unbelievable. Yeah, you might have the FAA look into that.
We'll look into that, too. Yeah, we'll look into that,
These are the issues that could bring out some
niche voters. We need a department of grievances.
We can run it.
We have a lot of federal agencies, but not that one.
We'll be the secretaries.
Exactly.
Yeah, listen, if you were to have an agency for grievances, I think I would file a lot of grievances against Kamala Harris.
Start with her, yeah.
I would start with her. I mean, of all the things going on in the world, she's the border czar. She got no time to go down to the border, but she got time to go on a talk show and talk about people who don't wear their shoes on an airplane. I mean, really, come on. What else have I got time for? Not much else, but I'll get a couple of things in. DOJ has refused to fork over audio of Biden's interview with special counsel, despite contempt of Congress threats. That this is something they're just not going to do. Now, this was the one where he apparently could not be kept on task, seemed to wander all over the place, couldn't remember, a lot of details about his own personal history. And so they wanted to look at that and find out if he said things that have anything to do with some of the things they're investigating up on Capitol Hill. But the Department of Justice has thrown down the gauntlet saying, no, you cannot have that. And then finally, I think I'll end with this. We've had some bad news in the country music world with Morgan Wallen and that whole thing. And I'll just leave it to say that I think that Morgan Wallen needs some help, and I hope he gets it. And if the judges decide and this thing gets adjudicated, if he does some time in jail, I think it might be good for him, because I don't think he's going to get the word. You need something dramatic to get this young man's attention, because this is strike 2. And, I hope that there's never a strike 3. I hope somebody will come forward and try to guide this young man to get him on the right track. What a sad situation that is, throwing a chair off the roof of a bar, nearly hitting a couple of police officers. But very quickly, and I know I have to wrap this up very quick, Beyonce has the #1 Billboard country album. The first black woman to ever top the chart. Congratulations, Beyonce. Come to Nashville sometimes and find out what country music really is. 50 minutes now past the hour.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.